Hey, aloha, Love Tribe. Guess what? This is a super special day. It's a fun throwback day. It's a fun look into the future. It's a fun opportunity to be here now with the wonderful technology of the internet, of Bitcoin, of podcasting. I have a wonderful panel for us. I have an opportunity for us to meet the podfather, the person who has invented podcasting. So I've got a couple little fun things to share. Check this out. Hold on. Let's make sure this goes, guys. Can you hear this? Let's go. Dun, dun, dun. Yay! Dun, oh my God, you guys, this brings me back so many memories of being with my boyfriend in the back of our Ford Fiesta, making out in high school. So cool. So let's go here and see who this is. I'm trying to match his hair.
On MTV. Well, here's the story. They've been called rowdy, raunchy, gut-level rockers, and the next band that everybody tries to copy. Now, their own record label said that they'll make it if they live long enough. Well, they have, and Guns N' Roses is one of the most talked about bands this year, and MTV caught them live at the Ritz in New York City. So get ready for a high-powered, loud, high-energy, loud, rock and roll, loud show as they perform My Michelle, a cover of the Dylan classic, Knocking on Heaven's Door, and of course, Welcome to the Jungle. Guns N' Roses live at the Ritz is up next.
Oh my God, I love it. You guys, I'm trying to match my hair. Oh, hold on. Uh-huh. We have to try to match my hair back to this beautiful guest of ours. I typically don't write a big long intro for my guest, but this guest is so special and it is worthy of me doing this. So I'm going to actually read it, and I'm just so excited. So I have the distinct honor and privilege of this fireside chat with someone who is a dedicated, freedom-loving, truth-seeking, business and tech innovator and badass visionary culture creator. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Adam Curry was responsible for shaping the global culture as a cutting-edge host, VJ, producer, director, and writer for MTV and Europa TV. In 2000, he started and sold the NASDAQ company, the digital agency Think New Ideas. 2000, he also joined forces with the acclaimed software developer Dave Weiner and brought internet broadcasting, aka podcasting, to life and became the Podfather. In 2020, after observing stagnating development and centralization, Adam and Dave Jones launched the podcastingindex.org for podcasting 2.0, currently with over 4 million listings to support free speech and value for value, so that we could free and separate content creators from centralized commercial tech and global banking systems. Today in 2024, with thousands of episodes under his belt, oh my God, you're getting the 10,000 hours, right, Adam? Adam now produces the award-winning show, No Agenda Show podcast with John C. Dvorak, and is a champion for freedom technology. So please welcome everybody, my new friend, Adam Curry. Woohoo! How's it going, Adam?
I'm doing good, and you've got to come clean with this. There's no way you were old enough to have been watching MTV back when I was on. I'm not buying it.
I'm literally a handful of years away from you, Adam.
Well, what an intro. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. Most people gloss over the NASDAQ company. That people forget that I started with partners and took a company public in '96, which was quite the experience.
Dude, that's monstrous, and I think for all of us, as creators and business people, like, I don't think people understand how hard that is to do. So,
the listing is one thing, but then all of a sudden, every 3 months, you've got to report numbers to shareholders, and you have to have accountability, and you have to have estimates that are kind of right. I mean, it was, I would not trade it in for anything, but I'm never going to do it again.
Yeah,
that system is pretty whack.
It is pretty whack, but so how do you feel like right now? Obviously, we're going to get into a whole bunch of different things in this wonderful chat here. So let's talk about, like, what the heck is podcasting 2.0 versus regular podcasting for new listeners and people who might be out there who are completely brand new to this?
Well, It is podcasting. It's just an expanded version of podcasting. So whether you're using podcasting 2.0 or no matter what app you're using, the podcasting 2.0 podcast feeds will work in your legacy app. But what really happened is about 4 years ago. Um, Dave Jones has been a good friend of mine for now 15 years, and we've been working on projects. He lives in Alabama. We only met, I think, once at that point, but we met online, not in a dating app, but in like a nerd thing we were doing, and. And so we were both very interested in RSS, and we actually built an entire system called the Freedom Controller,
Ooh.
which really was meant to be kind of a personal social media system where you could network with other people, analogous to, like a Mastodon or a Twitter or even Facebook to a degree, but it would all be based on RSS. And we called it the Freedom Controller, and we built it, and we both use it today for different pieces of what we do in our regular daily lives. And we attracted about, I think, 5 other people to this system, but we loved it, and we've always been just building stuff that we thought was cool. But 4 years ago, Apple had, I noticed that Apple had kind of become the default on-ramp to podcasting in 2 ways. One, if you weren't on Apple, then you didn't have a podcast, which of course is on its face ridiculous, but it was kind of true because all of the independent apps out there were using the Apple index to basically get all their information about shows, and we're using Apple's infrastructure, which on one hand was really nice because Apple allowed that for free, but they also had to do that because of the way their own app worked. But of course, when it's for free, there's no guarantees, and they can change anything they want, and they did. They started to deplatform certain podcasts, and it's irrelevant what they were. No one was breaking the law. It was really politically motivated. They started messing around a little bit with the APIs. Certain things weren't returning the expected results. And, I had just been doing my No Agenda show with Dvorak at that point for 13 years. And I was just using podcasting. I wasn't thinking much about what was happening in the so-called industry because there really wasn't anything happening. And I called up Dave and I said, dude, we've got to create an alternate index because Apple can't be the boss of all of this. And we have to, in essence, create an open source, open system with an API that any developer can jump in and access. And we'll run it value for value, which I know you understand. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But the idea, basically, we provide this free of charge as a valuable service. And if you see any value in it, send us back the value that you get out of it. So we built the index, podcastindex.org. And an amazing thing happened. Lots of developers showed up. And we really only had two missions here. One was to protect free speech. Literally, podcasting is free speech. So we have an index. You can't get taken out of it unless there is some. We've had, I think, one DMCA copyright takedown. So there is some. If it's law breaking in that regard, we'll take it down. But there's really no other reason to remove anything unless it's obviously illegal by the U.S. Constitution and the laws of the United States where we're located. So we've really never had a problem with that. The second thing was there was also at that time, 4 years ago, a lot of debanking going on. And people were being kicked off of systems like Patreon and PayPal and even credit card processors. Now, I had been introduced to Bitcoin early on, right at the beginning. People were sending me Bitcoin, telling me that this is going to be the future of money. And I was like, it's Beanie Babies for the internet. It's no good. I did actually hold on to quite a bit of that, which as another story we can talk about. But so I had kind of re-engaged a little bit with what was happening with Bitcoin because the Lightning Network had just launched about 10 months prior to that. And we were in COVID lockdowns and all kinds of nonsense was going on. So I decided to go the path, the Raspberry Pi, set up my own node. And I was right away, I understood that this was a way that we could exchange value for value in real time with podcasting because of the instantaneous payment nature of the Lightning Network, along with a very low fee structure, and of course the sovereignty of it. And so we were able to take the concept of, hey, you're listening to my podcast. Was there any value to you? Send it back. Whatever it's worth to you, just send that back to us. Now, the minute you hit the play button, you could actually start streaming sats at any predetermined amount to the podcaster. And later, the group at podcastindex.social created the concept of a boost, where you can send one nice big payment, add a message to it. It's a boostagram. And that was really all that we wanted to do, or all that we cared about. But the developers came in and said, oh, man, I've been wanting to do transcripts and chapters and person tag and location and all these different things. And so we said, oh, cool. Then we'll just create, we had something called the namespace, which allows you to extend RSS. Any XML format can be extended with a namespace. Apple actually has the iTunes namespace, which say they control, and you can't change anything that as an independent person. So the namespace was created, all of that again at podcastindex.org. And we now have several hundred developers, interested parties, podcasters, you name it, are in there. And I think we have 27 features that enhance the original podcast format. And we have over 70 apps and services that are now supporting it, including some of the biggest hosting companies. And it's gotten to the point where it was kind of a win, just for the concept, where Apple took the transcript tag, which we developed in Podcasting 2.0, and added that to their app. Now that's also been added to Pocket Casts and many other podcast apps. So it's a long haul. These things take a long time. But I think that you'll see more of these enhancements coming out as we move forward. And of course, the modern podcast apps, podcastapps.com is where you can find them. A lot of them enable this Lightning Network integration for value for value.
It's so amazing. How did you get it? And how did you become such a freedom lover, going from, being this, world-class VJ, businessman, exiting companies, and then starting to really be this champion for freedom? Because obviously free speech is super important. Self-expression is super important. We don't want to get debanked. We don't want to have, duct tape over our mouths as human beings. Like, when was did you have a tipping point or some kind of an aha that you're like, I got to get into this? Because I've always been like a hole puncher in, conspiracy theories. And I'm like, that just doesn't sound right to me, and I'm a little like, my spidey sense is like, that's bullshit. So did you have any kind of thing that you were like, damn it, I need to get going in this direction now?
Yes, it'll be 17 years ago in October when John C. Dvorak and I started No Agenda. And that was really predicated on two things that happened. I was living in the UK at the time, and the Lisbon Treaty was kind of supposed to be the constitution for the European Union. All the member states were supposed to sign on to that, and then Ireland said, no, we don't like it. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, do-over, do a new vote. You didn't vote right. And then, of course, they voted yes. And I started to look at this Lisbon Treaty, and the things that the media was talking about were really, we'll all have the same money, which, by the way, is a big deal when you all have the same money, moving from independent sovereign fiat currencies. And we don't need a passport. You can just walk across the borders, whatever you want to do. But there was so much more going on in the protocols and things that were attached to this Lisbon Treaty, that I just saw the media really gaslighting people by omission. Simultaneously, there was a book that came out called Legacy of Ashes by a former New York Times writer, Tim Weiner, I think it is. And it was about the CIA. And man, this was quite the expose. And my uncle, Donald Gregg, he had been very high up in the CIA, even back to the OSS days. And I've always had a good relationship with him. He was the national security advisor to Bush Sr. when he was vice president and in charge of the CIA. And, he Iran-Contra, he was in a lot of this stuff. And so I called him up and I said, Uncle Don, I'm reading this book. Is this true? And he says, yeah, that's pretty much the way I remember it. So, that just kind of blew my mind. And this was around 2007. Ron Paul was running for president. Of course, he had the original Tea Party. So all of a sudden, I started to read books like End the Fed and started to understand what the Federal Reserve really was. Because I'd just been in show business. I was a VJ. I was a radio guy.
Yeah.
I was a top 40 DJ. And also, Alex Jones was streaming on the internet at the time. So you listen to some Alex Jones stuff and the old videos he used to put on Google Video before there was a YouTube, and it just blew my mind. And so I started to deconstruct the media, knowing a little bit about how media works, having been in it and having been part of, in essence, the whole system. And Dvorak, having been in the system more from a publishing side, but also radio and television, we were a match made in heaven. We're like, this is nonsense. And so we just started pulling media apart, and we were doing it for ourselves initially for months. We'd call each other on Skype and we'd talk once a week. And then I think John had the luminous idea of, hey, we should record this and put this out as a podcast. And we did. And that's how it started.
Isn't that the best? I know some of these conversations lead to these big ahas, like, oh yeah, maybe someone else might want to hear this stuff too. Obviously we're dealing with a lot of censorship right now. We've got, the samurai thing that's going on, and they've just are trying to determine that, code is not protected speech. We're dealing with Alex Jones having to sell his assets supposedly to go pay off this lawsuit. We're dealing with all the nonsense of, censorship that's going on with, posting memes in California or in the UK or wherever. It seems like, for those of us who are very, very interested in fighting for our freedom and for the next generation and hopefully for all the generations to come. Like, I was just thinking yesterday, like, what should I be working on that I'm going to be happy about in 100 years from now? Like, what am I going to be proud of that I put my thumbprint of energy on? And it's freedom, it's freedom technology, it's freedom technology, it's freedom technology. And so, how do we as podcasters and people who are listening who maybe want to start a podcast or want to start getting their voice out there and they want to start debunking things, like, how would you offer some guidance for them to cover their butts, and then also still be honest and true about what they want to talk about or what their missions are in life?
Well, that's a very decent question. The immediate answer is you do not want to build your audience on a platform, certainly not one that you don't control. So thinking that you're going to upload to X or to Facebook or to YouTube or Rumble even, doesn't matter where. If you don't control it, then you don't control it. You don't own it. And then you can be taken down at the whim of the platform owner and controller. So having your own RSS feed is truly the rock solid syndication format that you can control. You control what goes in there. You control how it goes out. And, there is a very big universe of applications and services and apps that can ingest that. And, those can come and go, but they're all completely interoperable. So, you can be using Podverse or Fountain or CurioCaster or Podcast Guru or Podcast Addict. It really works everywhere. And it's a complete distributed, decentralized system. Even the hosting companies are they kind of slowed down now, but for the past 5 years, there's been many, studies done by universities about podcasting, and oh my God, this is where the most horrible things are said, and we have to moderate this somehow. But there's really no way to moderate it. You can only do it at the app level or maybe through Apple, and that's the beauty of it. There is really no way to deplatform someone who's using RSS for a podcast, is using the Lightning integration for payment. We even have a system called IPFS, which is, it's not our system, it's the Interplanetary File System. And we've integrated that now with podcasting. So you can go to ipfspodcasting.net and you can host your feed and your files on this, virtual storage system that it can't be taken down. I mean, that's the main thing. That's the number one thing you want to do, is make sure that you're protected in that manner. because I believe all speech is just free speech. This concept of hate speech, it's all nonsense. There's also no laws against it. So that would be the first step.
I think it's super important. And I think for a lot of us who are not ultra techie like me, it's important to like, how do we have little step by step? Okay, dip my toe in over here, dip my toe in here. Okay, cool. I got a Bitcoin wallet. Okay, cool. I set this thing up over on Podcasting Index or wherever. It's very it can be a little daunting for those of us who aren't coders and those of us who are, we just
No coding
yeah.
experience necessary. I mean, this is what's so beautiful about the decentralized nature is there are literally thousands of podcast hosts. Now, you can. What's nice about RSS is you can write your RSS feed in Notepad if you want to. I mean, it's literally that simple. But we have what I call podcasting 2.0 native hosting companies like podhome.fm,
Yay, Podo.
rssblue.com.
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
these guys they have all the things built in right there. They make it super simple. They're making an interesting use of some computer generated text systems. I
Mhm.
waver to call that artificial intelligence. So you upload your file, a transcript is pulled from that. From that transcript, the system then suggests titles, suggests chapters, even artwork can all be suggested. So it really takes a lot of that initial understanding and the hurdles and the kind of the barriers to entry, takes it out of it while giving you all the things you need to be completely 2.0 compliant. So this is it, and this has all been done in the past 4 years. It's amazing what has happened.
And do you feel like, since we're dealing with a lot of open source mindset, and decentralized mindset because of the Bitcoin community and free and open source development and software, like this is new to me since COVID. Like I've been learning about Bitcoin and the whole rabbit hole since 2021. And it's just completely opened my eyes and my mind to like, wow, this is how people can collaborate and work together and move the needle forward. And I'm obviously an old DJ and went to Burning Man a whole bunch. And so I always, obviously I love the Woodstock generation. And I'm like,
Woohoo!
hey, I'm a
Yeah,
deadhead and
girl.
an old
Yeah.
hippie, right? Let's go.
Wait, were you at Woodstock too?
No, I was not in
Oh, I
any of
was
the
there. I
Woodstocks.
was there. It was muddy. It
Uh,
was very, very muddy. It was bad.
it was Mudstock.
It was.
Yeah, but like I think about the Woodstock generation and the Burning Man generation and all of these people who are out there that want to go like shift the world, and I think the technology that exists today with open source is so important for people to start thinking like this is how we collaborate, together and not this top down centralized approach. I mean, certainly there's certain things that need to be centralized in the world, but there's other things that truly benefit from this open source. Let's just all kind of tackle it together mindset. And it's been really, it's just been transformational for me spiritually and mentally and as a business person, and thinking about like, wow, this is how people can collaborate. And it doesn't have to be even in the music industry. I mean, you're obviously old school music industry. You think about the gated walls of, the old record labels and how everything was here. It's like now you can make full songs and symphonies on your phone and you can put it out there and you don't need a label to, uh, get your music out. Certainly you need distribution, but it's like the creative process has been like nuclear bombed of yes, anybody can go do this. So how has your creative process blossomed over the years as the Podfather? Like what's it like? Tell us what your creative process looks like, Adam.
My creative process, usually I pray to God and say, God, give me some ideas here, please. And he does. I can't really claim the discovery or invention of podcasting. I was just a vehicle for use there. I'm quite confident of that. Um, what well, the creativity, of course, is completely open. You can do whatever you want. I come from from a restrictive, you've got an hour, you've got to hit 3 commercial breaks, you got the news at the top of the hour. That is the world I came from. And also, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that. And over time, you just learn, you put in filters and you can't say that. Once those filters are removed, it's great. And it's also, you got to be careful because you can say stuff that is just not helpful to whatever you're doing. Um, now open source by itself, of course, is not new, and it
Right.
precedes Bitcoin. But running an open source project like Podcasting 2.0 is, I would say, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my career, because we set up a Mastodon server, Activity Pub, for this very reason. And typically these things are run on GitHub, and someone has power in GitHub, and you have some other people who have power. And I find it a very restrictive environment for great collaboration, because you
Mm.
just have these very, very long threads. It's important because GitHub issues and proposals, you need some kind of process for how you're going to actually get something into the project or into the software or into the protocol, into the format. But having this kind of more free form conversation, which everyone is quite familiar with, has really worked very well. And we do police ourselves. We just, because I mean, you look at this group, it's all kinds of backgrounds, nationality, sexuality, gender, creed, religion. We just don't talk about that. We're here to talk about podcasting. That's all. And we do a pretty good job of doing just that. So, I don't think there's ever been any kind of flame war or anything, whereas GitHub sometimes can get a little bit heated. But what I love about it is that we just said, here's our thing, come on in. And, along came an entire orchestra. One guy brought a banjo, someone's got a zither, some dude's playing the spoons, washboard. So, but everyone had kind of their own thing that they wanted to accomplish. But this is where I think Bitcoin brought us together.
Mm.
When we introduced the value for value payment system, we also put in something called splits, so that you can, as a content producer, you can put in your feed, in your RSS feed, if someone's paying me, I want these percentages to go to these different wallets. So if it's just me, give 100% to me. But I have a co-host, so take 40% from me, 40% for my co-host, 5% for the person who promotes our show, and 5% for my mom. She lent me the money for the gear, whatever. And those will actually be done in 4 individual payments in real time. So many app developers were able to, give away their software for free, which is kind of the expectation, certainly with podcast apps or most apps. People don't really like paying for apps if they can get away with it. And say, hey, you're getting this app value for value. So every payment you make, I'm going to take 1% or 2%, or I'll waive that fee if you purchase the app or subscribe to the app. So we put the value for value right into that system. And it doesn't just work for apps, it works for the IPFS network that I mentioned earlier. A split goes to that network to keep the person who maintains that, keep him motivated and excited. No one's getting rich off of it yet,
Yeah.
but there is money flying around. I mean, there's tens of thousands of dollars a week floating around the value for value networks. And you were talking about music. So when we introduced music, which has always been something I wanted to do, was play music on podcasts,
Mhm.
which has always been impossible from a licensing standpoint, because you have to have a performing rights license, either from ASCAP, BMI, or both, so that a portion of your revenue goes to the songwriter, the composer. Then you have all kinds of sub rights organizations for the performer, etc. And you literally cannot get a license for that, because a podcast is, yes, it's a performance, but it's also a mechanical right, because you bake it into an MP3 that's downloaded on someone's device. So now there's a whole different set of rights holders who pop up. So that was never going to work. And we came up with the concept of the remote item. It's just a technical term, but the idea is, if I play a song on any of my podcasts, I tell the app, again through my RSS feed, from this time code to that time code, pull in all of the information and data from that song, which is also on a podcast feed, including their payment information. So now payments that are coming to me are being rerouted to the artist. And this has really kicked off an amazing revolution with the advent of players like LN Beats, but also Wavelake as a hosting company, and the aforementioned RSSBlue.com and Podhome. They also are offering this type of service, hosting service to musicians, because when you think about it, there is no technical difference between a podcast feed that has an MP3 in it with an hour-long discussion versus a podcast feed with an MP3 in it with a 3.5-minute song. Technically, there's no difference. So you can use this for anything. Same for audiobooks. And so we're really trying to expand this universe and get people's head in a different spot, because we have what I call the podcast industrial complex, who have just basically tried to jump in and say, all right, we're going to do this all on advertising. And as long as someone has headphones on and a video, it's a podcast, even if it's on YouTube, fine. People can go and try and build their audience there. But, see my rule number one, don't build your audience on a platform, build it on your own feed where you have control over what's happening.
I love that. Do you feel like remember when obviously, streaming was starting to happen, when Spotify was coming in and people were like, oh, we're not going to buy CDs anymore. But then the record labels were freaking out. Like, what do we do now that these, streaming companies want to start coming in? Obviously we had all the pirate streaming. And so the consciousness of the industry was terrified, right? And they thought, this is going to be the worst thing ever. How are we going to make money? And obviously everything has shifted. So now we've got, of course, the Spotify's, the Apples, the Amazon, everybody doing their streaming music and whatnot. And so do you feel like, we're at just kind of the tip right now where labels and artists and lawyers and producers and everybody who's got their mind in the old, paradigm are going to start catching fire, and moving forward? Because I think, to me, like, if I were Spotify or if I were Apple or wherever, or if I were the record labels, and there was this little thing that we could put into the opportunity for, whether it's podcast listeners or music listeners, any kind of content, I think of content 2.0. If they have this opportunity to put this on their platform so that the artists can get these streaming tips, like, I want to keep my artists out of McDonald's flipping hamburgers. So to me, that would be ultra beneficial from that lens, that we're pitching these, these old dinosaurs to say, look, this is the future, and we're going to eliminate paperwork for you guys. And it's just going to kind of have all these yummy machines doing what they do best in the background. And so do you feel like we're at the beginning?
Fuck those guys.
It's not about the guys. It's about the artists, though.
Yeah, but this is my point.
Okay.
Spotify, Apple Music, the industry owns that. The owners of Spotify are the labels and the publishing companies. And by the way, I'm sorry, Lord, I didn't mean to, I couldn't help. Sometimes you got to use the F word.
I love F-bombs.
They are never going to get it. They're never going to give up their system. Spotify doesn't really make any money because they are at the behest and ownership of the publishing company. So the only way to really make it happen is if people stay sovereign, keep their own publishing rights, don't give that away, and just use these modern systems. And I don't like the term tips, because this is value for value. It's very different. A tip is something you add on top of a service that you liked extra, you already got paid for. So there's no payment here. It's all value for value. And we've seen great successes with this. It's all very small, but the future of all media is small. No longer do you have to have, minimum 10,000 downloads to get advertising, or a minimum of 5,000 authenticated streams a month to even be considered for getting a payout from Spotify. You just need 100 or 200 or maybe 1,000 people who like what you're doing and are willing to support it. And, if you ask, you will be given. I mean, this is just a fact. But you can't just sit around waiting for someone to say, oh yeah, I remember, I can give you a tip. No, here's my music. If you like it, please support me. You will be amazed how that works. It is, and you also have to live by it. I mean, I'm always sending value off to anywhere, and then surprise, surprise, it comes back tenfold. You can't give it away fast enough almost. So no, we're at the tip of a revolution in decentralized media, which means it's going to be small. And so No Agenda has been around for 17 years. we're running about 1 million people who consume it on a monthly basis. We don't even call them listeners. We call them producers, because you need to help us produce this show. I can't afford producers. There you go. So there's a great example. That artwork as a part of the No Agenda Art Generator. The website No Agenda Art Generator was built by Sir Paul Couture. He's been maintaining it for at least 15 or 16 years, maybe the full 17. He's upgraded it 3 times in the process. And while we're doing the show live, artists are uploading these pieces of art. We have 20 or 30 pieces to choose from, and we can use that right away when we publish the show. I mean, yeah, there you go. So it's amazing what people are. These are all the ones that won. There's a lot of them that are just no good, but we also review it on the next show, say, hey, here's why we didn't choose this, this, or this, which most artists never get to hear the negative feedback. So that's all. When we say value for value, you can contribute to us with time, talent, or treasure. Treasure is obvious. Time and talent is what you're seeing right here on the screen.
It's so amazing, Adam, because this reminds me, I don't know, like I said, I'm a deadhead. And so I'm an everything head, but definitely deadhead for sure. Back in the day when you were ordering, your mail order tickets, in the 80s.
Did you see him at the Sphere? Did you go to Vegas?
No, I can't talk about it. I'm like, I went through a month of depression because I had to miss it. So did you go?
Oh, that's too bad. No, a friend of mine did all of the video stuff, and
oh my God.
She told me how it worked, and I mean, it was terabytes of data. It was quite amazing what they were doing.
Yeah, immersive experiences are like one of my biggest passions, and I believe they can definitely transform your consciousness. They transform the ability for us to connect with each other, and so I've been passionate about this since the late 90s when I was, at Burning Man for the first time and in a dome. And we started a whole nonprofit thinking we're going to build domes all over the world and interconnect us and have holograms and beam us up. We're all going to dance together.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring peace
love on
to
the
the
playa,
world.
baby. Yeah, we're going to change the world on the playa.
I know, right? And so, oh man, but in the old days, when you were ordering your Grateful Dead tickets, you would decorate the envelope, and it had to be a certain size envelope. And so the artwork that was submitted, they have this gorgeous collection of just the most beautiful artwork of all the Deadheads, because they were like, pick me, and so this totally reminds me of that.
You bring up a very interesting point. When we went to the CD is when it really started, but once we went to the iPod and iTunes, 2 things that were really destructive took place. One is we completely lost the whole idea of the album cover, the liner notes. I mean, and by the way, a double album, very handy. I mean, I used to separate my stems and seeds on Frampton Comes Alive. It was important stuff. But they also unbundled the album, which made, you might have only heard the 2 singles on the album, but you bought it to listen to it all in order, the way the artist initially intended. And that got unbundled and pulled apart. And so it really destroyed a lot of the original business model. And what we're seeing now, I think, is with the types of technologies that we're using, a lot of that is coming back, but now you actually get to participate in the process. So you can help make the cool envelope that the band might actually do something with. People are, with the advent of stems, people are contributing to the music. There's so many things that are happening. And once we can get past the idea of I need to be Taylor Swift or Beyonce, which guess what? You're not, because you got to go through the satanic rituals and you don't want to go there. So, but for 17 years, these 2 old white dudes have been making a living. Our kids went through school, most of them. Some of them didn't want to go. We're not billionaires. We're not 100 millionaires. We're not 10 millionaires. We have a nice existence, and we do it with our audience. If we suck, they punish us right away. If we go off track, because they don't have to support us. They don't have to support us with time, talent, or treasure. So it keeps everything in balance. And the value that people receive from the end product is clearly enough for us to continue doing what we're doing. This is the future. And that is a very Deadhead type Burning Man experience, although I think maybe old Burning Man, not current hipster Burning Man. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And it is software and podcasting. My friend Mo, did this fantastic series, 100 episodes, MoFax with Adam Curry. And it's basically just Black American guy, white American guy, sit down, talk about stuff, talk about all the issues. This is what Springsteen and Obama tried to do, but that was very phony and fake. And Mo says, I think correctly, he says, podcasting is hip hop. Said it is hip hop.
Oh.
And I think it's true. And we've just added some extra bits so that you can make money or exchange value a little bit more easily, thanks to the Lightning Network and Bitcoin and the whole ethos that goes along with that.
Yeah, I love, wow, podcasting is hip hop. I like that philosophy because I think we can do anything we want, really.
That's right.
Like it's a hybrid, it's mixed media, and I agree. Like when I used to DJ playing records, that was obviously the bomb, and it was a whole different culture. Like if I was, on Thursdays, I had to drive up to LA to this record store because that's when they got their shipment, and I had to go grease this guy. And
Girl,
then on
I hear
Wednesdays,
you.
you know what I mean?
And the man, don't give me the picture disc. It sucks. The quality's never good
Totally,
at
I
the
know.
picture disc.
But it was like so much fun. And then it was just this like little competitive-y kind of fun thing. Like, haha, I got the last copy, but like now everything is like ubiquitous and throwaway, like with digital to some degree. And so I think the consciousness of our consumption has gotten to that degree too. And so when you think of, like you were saying, listening to the album from start to finish as it were meant to be played, right? And we've lost that. And I think the younger generation has missed out on that a little bit. So I think for those of us who are creatives, in any field, if you're a creator, you're a creator, it's up to us to have a little more fun, especially us geezers, to say like, hey, this is kind of how you can take people on a journey, right? Instead of just, here's your little microdose, 15-second thing to get you high, And so it's kind of fun. What would you say to new creatives and new artists, new podcasters who are coming up, like to, how to nurture their creative soul and their creative spirit?
First of all, start. Just
Yeah.
start. Just get going. What we've seen, so we have this amazing thing that started almost at the beginning of the podcast called No Agenda Stream, noagenda.stream. And it's very simple. It's a 24-hour a day audio stream, and it has a chat room attached to it, which is an IRC server. And IRC is, that dates back way before podcasting, way before Twitter and Mastodon. It's kind of this rock solid, robust, tried and true system. And so when we produce our podcast, we do it live on Thursdays and Sundays, and we have then it turns into the troll room. Then we just name it differently. So but you can do whatever you want. It's ephemeral. You can yell at me or whatever. But usually I get good one-liners. People fact check stuff or have additional information. But what has really happened is a lot of these people who are participants in the No Agenda Nation said, we're going to do our show. So we have all these different, personalities within the universe of No Agenda who started their own podcasts, and they're also doing them live. And, when you boost, now we have, all kinds of sounds that are triggered. The boost shows up in the chat, and it's just all these fantastic little things. But it went from, a stream of existing podcasts to a stream of some podcasts, but a lot of live stuff. And it's an active 24-hour a day community. There's always hundreds, sometimes thousands of people in there. And, it's its own little microcosm that is completely self-supporting, which is great. It's kind of like Deadheads in a way. It's not a huge universe, but it's big enough for people to supplement what they're doing, promote what they're doing. A lot of people have books or businesses, or we've got one person, Texas Hot Glass. She makes pipes and bongs and flutes out of glass, and so people start buying her products, and she's supporting the shows, and people are supporting her work. This is, again, it's very hard for people to not think I need to be Joe Rogan, because you're not going to be. And by the way, you may not want to be, because he's working very hard. He works a lot and talks to 4 or 5 people a week. And while it may look fantastic, there's only so much room for that. Everybody has something they're an expert at. Talk about that. Everyone has a musical style that they love. Do that. Don't try to be Taylor or Beyonce or what. Be yourself. And
Totally.
and you will find people, and it may surprise you how many show up and how many are willing to support you.
I think it's so important. A lot of people, we've got imposter syndrome, right? And then we think like, "Uh-oh, am I good enough? Or should I be who am I to hold the microphone? Or who am I to do this?" And it's like, you are God's child. You are the
Amen.
one and only you.
Amen.
There's no other version of you that ever has been or ever will be. And do not ever go try to go fit into someone else's mold, because that is an insult to your creator. And so to me, I think it's so important. And I love that advice for all of us, and whether you're a business person, I think everybody's a creator. If you can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you're a creator. Um, but like, I think about 1,000 True Fans, right? With Kevin Kelly. A lot of people, like you said, they get hung up on the like, I need to be Joe Rogan or Adam Curry or whoever. And it's just like, imagine if you literally had a room of 1,000 people who loved what you did, like in physical time. Like, that's a huge room. That's a great club. That's a great show. That's a great talk. Like, you would be so stoked to like give them your best all the time. And so those numbers games that are out there, they're all nonsense, And so it's like, find who loves what you do and love them back with the most authentic version of yourself in any
and
way,
let and
shape,
let
or
the, and
form.
let them help you. You'll be amazed how much help you can get from those 1,000 people. And when I look, and we have meetups, sometimes 200-300 people. People self-organize. NoAgendaMeetups.com, another website we didn't build. Sir Daniel built that, and we have at least 10 meetups going on around the world every single week, and people just show up. It's producer organized. It could be 2 people, it could be 10, it's 50, it's 100. They meet regularly. They create a connection, which of course, connection is protection. And sometimes even new creative endeavors, businesses, and relationships have come out of those meetups. This is what turns me on, is when people are so entrenched in the culture they have created.
Yes.
We didn't make up all of our words and our little language that we have. That came from the people who participate. And don't be afraid to take some creative input or creative work that they're sending, because there's some beauty in this loop that goes way beyond what we used to have, which is WHCZ caller 100. You just won a T-shirt. What's your favorite radio station? Z100. Okay, thank you. That's old fashioned.
Yeah. No, I think I love that. And I really think about like I had said in the intro, you are a visionary culture creator. And it's like, what is culture? Culture is connection, culture is community, culture is consciousness. And so, what are these new ways that we can come together? And so I'm listening to a book by Ali Abdal. It's called Feel Good Productivity, and he's talking about, he used to be a doctor and he turned into this super productivity guy. And I have ADD, so I need help being productive sometimes and being organized, but he was talking about one of the things that really helps people get things done is that feeling, that sense of ownership. And so when we have a sense of ownership on a team versus there's somebody telling us what to do, like we were just listening to it yesterday, but he was like saying, when you have peer-to-peer work ethics versus top-down work ethics, the peer-to-peer work ethics always thrive and they're happier and they get better results. And so I think about like the culture and the community that you've been building over the years. It's just so cool that you call people producers, because it's not like, oh, you're just a listener and I'm here and you're here. It's like, no, we're all here and we're all doing our things. And so that's the energy that I get from what you just said. It's pretty cool stuff, man. Wow. Can I ask you about what happened 2 years ago? And happy birthday, by the way, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a really, really
The
impressive
big six
birthday.
zero.
Yay,
Yes.
dude. That's super good. What happened 2 years ago? And I was just listening to you and Joe Rogan talking about your, trying to debunk a conspiracy theory. And then now all of a sudden, a former atheist is now rocking God.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was an atheist. I was
Okay. Okay.
just more agnostic. Somehow
Okay.
that turned into atheist, because I was
Okay.
not against God or against the universe, but
Cool. Cool.
um, There we go. So
There you
now,
go.
now the boostergrams are coming through for me. Thanks, Chad F. So there's a sound triggered when there's actually sending value to the show.
Yay, Chad.
Um, the I looked up one day and said, "Whoa! All these dudes around me that I'm working with, they're Christians.
Mhm.
What's wrong with me? And what is it going on with this?" And I am a conspiracy therapist, so I needed to take a look at what this was, because it's kind of a big one. This God and Jesus.
Mhm.
And I started to approach it just like I approached 9/11 or JFK or the moon landing or whatever, COVID. I just approached it in the same manner. I started reading, and uh, I talked about it on one of my podcasts, and people started sending me books. And an important one was Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And within 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, I'm sold. This Jesus is real. God is real. He died for our sins. He came back. He rose up, and I had a lot of beautiful things going on at the same time. My wife was on this journey at the same time, and we also found a church here, Bridge Church in Fredericksburg. But I will say that what also real, and this is Dave Jones actually sent me this. It was a series of articles by Naomi Wolf, who, Naomi Wolf, very leftist, feminist, hoity-toity type writer.
Mhm.
So not, at least that was my impression of her throughout the years. And she had started writing these Substacks, how she was at one of the dinner parties on the Upper East Side, and she heard these bankers talking about what they were going to do to a certain group of people in a country and just screw them, like, and just not having any humanity in their conversation. And for her, this was a real tipping point, because she said, I know these people. They're not evil people. There is an evil that has taken over them in this regard. And her conclusion was the same that I was coming to. If you have such great wickedness and evil in the world, there's got to be a counterbalance to that. And that, of course, is the good. That is God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. And I just, a whole bunch of people came into my world. And as I started reading, as I started to learn how to pray, songs became clear to me. Like Stevie Wonder on the Songs in the Key of Life has this great song, "Just Go Have a Talk with God." And I never really understood it. But now I'm like, oh, if you feel your life's too hard, just go have a talk with God. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. And once you build a relationship with Jesus Christ and with God, which sounds real funky hoity-toity if you're not a believer and you're hearing this for the first time, like Curry's gone off his rocker. You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there who are like this. And there's so much that I get from Scripture and from my relationship with Jesus Christ. And it just works throughout my entire life, my work. Fantastic things are happening. Every day I put on the whole armor of God. I'm good to
Yay.
go. So I can withstand anything that's incoming. And I just try to always be kind, gentle, loving. Man, social media is the devil's playground. It's very hard to look at that, and as you so quickly want to respond. And James has taught me over and over again, be quick to listen, slow to speak, even slower to get angry.
Yeah.
All of these things just make so much sense. And if you stay in the Word, a minimum of 4 times a day, the statistics are amazing. People who just go to church and read their Bible app. It's not quite the same as being in the Word for 15 or 20 minutes every single day. Once you get to 4 times a day, it's like the numbers are crazy. Like divorce rate, drops down to 10%. Drug and alcohol addiction drops almost out of sight. All these things change. And so I guess you would say, if you see someone with a Bible that's falling apart, their life probably isn't.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. I think about, people who pray together stay together. And,
Oh,
right? And my son, has really been getting into Jesus over the last year or so, and I'm very spiritual. I believe in God. I believe in many stories. I believe in the lessons, and I believe it is all about love. Obviously, that's my name. I literally changed my name to Valerie B. Love after my divorce because that was like, what's my mission in life? It's to be love, not to do love, not to give it. It's to
Right
be.
on.
And so, that's always been something that's been in my heart and as my mission as a human. And my son started getting into reading the Bible and Jesus, and I was just kind of like, and then I was like, well, let's do it together, and I'll start reading with you, and
Yeah.
I want you to teach me, because you always learn best what you teach. And so it's been a really beautiful journey for him and I on a spiritual path, because he wasn't vibing with the other things that I was dropping, and so I was like, okay, why don't you lead the way? And it's just been this really beautiful connection for us. And so I think about however, it's funny that you say that social media is the devil's playground. I was literally yesterday afternoon, I was like, I took all the apps off. I'm about to put X back on my phone. Oh, okay. You're
And
only
you
doing
know
it for
what?
promoting the summit tomorrow, Val. Take it back off as soon
And
as you're
I
done.
love the Thank God for Bitcoin group.
Yes. Oh my God.
Man, I don't know if you've read the book.
I
I think
haven't
it's
yet.
Jimmy
In the
Song's
movie,
book.
have you seen the film? Like,
Yes,
have
of
you?
course, of
Okay.
course, of course.
Yes. Oh,
But there's something there. There's always this mark of the beast, and people think it's going to be CBDC, and all these different things. And I look at Bitcoin, and I pray for Bitcoin. I pray just for the network to stay together. I don't pray for the value against the dollar. I pray for what it is, what it represents. Um, I use it in my own circular economy. Of course, podcasting 2.0 is literally using Bitcoin for value exchange hundreds of thousands of no, tens of thousands of times a day, because I see the transaction numbers. Um, the sats that we stack for the podcast that I do, with certainly the one with my wife, we take that, we buy beef from KNC Cattle. They
mhm.
accept Bitcoin. So now you're talking something very, very interesting, that goes outside of all of these systems. And the more I learn about everything, Bitcoin and just the world and the Lord in general, the more I see that, yes, fix the money, fix the world, for sure. For sure.
Totally. And I think too, you were saying with KNC buying cattle, a lot of people who are listening, you may or may not understand what's going on with our food supply, and how they're going to start trying to control everything and want us to eat bugs and don't be able to go, purchase this much, food that has X climate, carbon thing. And so
Yeah.
when we fix the money and when we understand that the way that we transact value is being censored and it's about to get worse if we don't look at this new beautiful system, we are slowly allowing ourselves to boil like the frogs and turn into these slaves of these powers that be. I call it the Kraken. It's always trying to get into everything. And so, with debanking, with deplatforming, with the things that these folks want to do, it's not time to put your head in the sand. It is time to get educated. It's time to tune into love and not be afraid, and raise your voice. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking about starting a show, or if you're thinking about making some posts or anything, like, do it. Like, it's okay. We need all the voices of people who value love, who value truth, who value peace, who value freedom, who value God, whatever God you choose to believe in, rise up. It is time to rise up. It is it's critical, especially what's going on with our democracy here in the United States. It's just been completely decimated, and it's not what we think it is. And um, so I think when we fix the money, we fix the world. When we fix love, we fix the world, and it's so important that we tune into what is love, and,
Mm-hmm.
and really having that daily love practice. I love the prayer 4 times a day. It's magic. So we've got, we're at the top of the hour, Adam, and we've
Top of the
got
hour, everybody.
top
Valerie,
of the
DJ
hour.
Valerie B. Love with you. All right. What's going on?
Oh, oh my God. Um, do you want to stay on a little bit? I want to have you do a closing comment, of course. Do you want to stay on? Because we've got 4 guys who are going to teach everybody about all the protocols and platforms that we're using for, the future of podcasting. So
I'd love to stay on, just to stay in the background, listen. I mean, I'll be watching anyway. So if I need to say something, I'll unmute and say something really appropriate. But I'd love to, and I just want to say thank you for doing this. This is a very interesting. By the way, I didn't know you were a believer, which just delights me. Because my wife said, "So tell me about this thing you're doing." And I said, "Well, it's with DJ Valerie B. Love." He's like, "Okay, what's that about?" I said, she's a Bitcoiner, and I don't know too much about her, but I saw her do a panel at the Bitcoin conference about value for value, and she knew exactly what she was talking about. When I tell her that you're a believer, she's gonna be like, "Oh man, it's unbelievable." It is believable, actually.
It's believable.
It's believable. Yes.
I love it. Well, so before I bring on the gentlemen who are in the backstage, any final words for everybody who's listening? Obviously, this is getting live streamed. We're going to record it and put it out there. Like, one final nugget from the Podfather for the future of podcasting and all the podcasters listening.
I will give you my golden rules of podcasting. Make sure that whatever frequency you're releasing your podcast, do it on that same frequency, same day, if possible, the exact same time, every single time. It doesn't have to be down to the hour, but as close as possible is good. Remember that people have they actually schedule their life around your podcast. I'm sorry. That's another boost. Let me see. That was 8008 from Eric PP. It triggers different sounds. See, interactive. There we go. But they schedule their life around the release of your podcast, and if it doesn't show up, people will go and look for an alternative, and you can lose them very quickly. Conversely, make sure that you remind people that you have another episode coming up. No Agenda, and Dvorak does this, sends out it's a newsletter, but it's really a reminder that we have another show tomorrow. And it's a reminder that you need to support us with value for value, time, talent, treasure, in order for us to continue doing this work. Those are really the main things. Everything else is really secondary. I do not believe you need video to be successful. I believe you need the RSS protocols to be completely independent. That's why the index is there. That's why podcastapps.com is there for you to find all the hosting companies and apps that you can promote to your audiences. And with that, of course, comes the Bitcoin payment rails. Join us for the revolution, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing poetry, whether you're doing news podcasts, whether you're making music. We're here. There's a big, big group of people who are willing to jump in and help you. And we look forward to seeing more people come into this community.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's such good advice. I know sometimes consistency is something that
it's hard.
It's hard. It is hard, but it's like once you get on it, it's like a rhythm, right? And so I think that's really, really great advice for all of us out here, especially me. I'm not the most consistent person. So thank you for that. I'm going to upgrade my consistency, Adam. And thank you again, seriously, like for everything you've done out there for this whole community and building the culture and giving people permission to step forward into their creativity and to a sense of ownership and a sense of participation. I think something that's really missing in our souls is a lot of people don't feel like they belong. They feel like they're out of place, they're misfits. And so for you to be creating this culture and this community that's fueled from a place of love and from a place of hope and possibility it's legendary. And I'm so absolutely honored to get to have had this hour with you. And I can't wait to keep getting more time and celebrating you and what you guys are doing. And I just thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Also, you can always find me at irc.voidzero.net, #Adam. That's my IRC room.
I'll put all that stuff in the show notes because okay, if that's okay.
Yeah, you can always jump in there. Yeah, I can always jump in there. It's new for me, but I'm so sick and tired of all the other social experiences. This is just, you can jump in there. I'm always looking at it, and I'm happy to see if I can help you out or point you in the right direction. And thank you, Valerie, for doing this. I really, really love that you put this together. This is great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, so much. And
Cheers.
so guys, I'm going to bring on for the next hour and a half, we're going to have a panel with 4 of my buddies who are helping me learn about podcasting, podcasting 2.0, lightning splits. Ben's not here. I don't know. Ben might have jumped off unless, oh, there he is. Hi, Ben. Yay. All right, guys. This is so great. So again, thank you, Adam, for being here and sharing everything. So you guys, I want to welcome to the stage 4 wonderful men who are rocking the next generation of podcasting. They're helping build protocols, they're building platforms, and they are always available for us to, reach out to. I've been using all of their stuff and it's been helping me learn how to, become a better Bitcoiner, become a better podcaster, and to get my messages out. We've got Oscar Mary of Fountain. We've got Barry Liebrechts of Podhome, Ben Ark of Ellen Bits, and then Moritz from Get Alby. I'm just going to let each of you guys do like a little quick couple minute intro about who you are and what your platform service is. And then what I want to do is get into each of I've got screen shares, and I want to do some screen shares with how it works in the back end. It won't be full tutorials, but what I want to do is share like, hey, cool, how do you set up this thing over on Podhome, and what's an Alby wallet, and how do I listen to this stuff on Fountain, and how can I do splits over here on Ellen Bits for my episodes, and not even just episodes, but for the event in general. And so I think that'll be something really cool. So how about let's start with Barry, and I would love to bring you up, Mr. Barry.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this, Val.
Heck
It's
yeah.
a pretty cool event. So I'm Barry. I'm from podhome.fm. We're a podcast hosting company, like Adam just said. And we are a native podcasting 2.0 hosting company. That means that from the beginning, we've been able to build all of these modern features like chapters, transcripts, clips, people, pod roles, and also V for V with the splits and music as well, all in there, and made it very easy for people to use. And so, for instance, right now, we're broadcasting this also live in modern podcast apps. So, for instance, for Fountain, Oscar Mary's app, you can now listen live to what we're doing here, just the audio, which is very cool. And that's part of modern podcasting, what we offer at Podhome.
I think it's great. Thank you so much. I know I've been using your service and it has been amazing. And I feel super grateful that, you have been so helpful, Barry, like, because I always have lots of questions and of course 10,000 ideas, like, can you do this, can you tweak this, what about that, can you do this? And you're so responsive in the way that you guys have been developing Podhome has been really, really amazing. So I love it, and I'm super stoked to have you here. How about Oscar? Let's have you come up next.
Hey guys, hey Val, thanks so much for doing this. It's been really great so far. My name's Oscar Mary. I'm the lead developer of the Fountain app. Fountain is a podcast app, just like any podcast app that you probably use today. The key differentiator for Fountain is the value for value payments that you've just heard all about from the man himself, Adam Curry. So in Fountain, you can listen to any of your favorite podcasts, but the shows that have chosen to set up value for value, you can support them directly from the player. You can stream sats per minute, and you can send a one-off payment, which is called a boost. And I guess the key thing that we're trying to do in the Fountain app is use the payments as a signal to help you discover what content is worth listening to. So we have a bunch of social features in the app. If I, for example, follow Adam on Fountain and he sends a boost to an episode, I'll see that in my feed and maybe I'll check it out or add it to my queue to listen later. So yeah, that's a brief overview of the Fountain app, and happy to talk more about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Oscar. I love this. I know when we met in Madeira, we were talking about, the creator summit that we did in May with, I think we had like 35 speakers. We're like, let's do a summit because not everybody's going to get to come to a Bitcoin conference, right? So how can we bring, podcasting content? How can we bring Bitcoin to the masses? And you were super great with helping to get that going. Same with Barry. You were on one of the panels there too. So thank you guys so much. Okay. So Moritz from Get Alby, let's see what's Get Alby got going on.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot for the invitation, Val. So cool to be here. Yeah, I'm working with a bunch of great people on Alby. We're building open source tools for creators, users, developers to send and receive Lightning payments, especially when it comes to interacting directly with applications. So we give everybody a Lightning address, for example. I think that's just like the most important thing someone needs to start receiving payments. And yeah, like once you have some sats, you can also then, for example, connect them to a browser extension to support other creators. You can use them on the go with our new native mobile app, Alby Go, for example. And one part that we are very much focusing on is, for example, the whole value for value specification. So if you have an Alby wallet, for example, you can receive podcast payments, like streaming money, boostergrams, directly in your app in a self-custodial way. But you can also analyze them. For example, we have a tool that's called Saturn, and by doing this, we help and make sure that like podcasters, but also podcast listeners have a great time. Also, not only like just saving Bitcoin, but really also making use of their Bitcoin.
It's awesome. I know. I love Alby, and I'm excited. I've got my Alby hub set up now. And just for anybody who's listening, we're going to get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts in a second, but I want to bring Ben up really quick, and then I want to talk. We'll go back into like what is a Lightning wallet for people to understand, like what's the basic of what is this Lightning wallet. Thank you, Marie. It's hey Ben Ark from Ellen Bits. What's up, brother? And Noster, of course.
Hello, how's it going? Yeah, thanks for having me. So, my name's Ben. I got Alby started, which is a great project. It's probably like
A little more voice. It's hard to hear you.
Is it? Maybe I've got the wrong. Sorry, I thought
it's okay.
Let me just quickly switch my audio. Or maybe circle back around to me. How about now? Is that louder? Wait there. I got it. How about?
No, the other one was better.
That's better.
That's better. Whatever this is sounds better. Yeah, thumbs up.
There we are. So
all right, brilliant. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, so my name's Ben. I got Alby started, which is probably Bitcoin's most powerful all-in-one tool set of tools and applications you can just run on your node. We have 45 plus extensions, which are completely kind of extrapolated out of Alby, and you can just install them as you need them. And then for things like podcasting, we have a bunch of useful extensions like payment splitting, which was really nice, kind of came organically out of the community as an idea. But it means that you can accept payments and then split it across multiple wallets and Lightning addresses and things like that. Other useful extensions, I was just trying to think then, it's like we have a video copilot extension, so you can have like a QR code on the screen, and then when people tip you, it like triggers GIFs and stuff, which is pretty nice. And then we also have a bunch of hardware projects which kind of came out of the Alby community. So we have the Bitcoin switch, which means that you can trigger something to happen in real life when a payment happens to an address, and you can have a lot of fun with that. So you can have lights turning on, or you can have smoke machines blowing in your face, or I don't know, whatever. You can I like the idea of like an interaction between the audience and the person who's talking to them, and I think it's quite nice when people like include the chat or something in a podcast, like a video feed. But it's also nice when you have like stuff happen, like trigger stuff within their material world. Another project which is pretty cool is the Zap lamp. So we have that, so you get zapped and then the lamp goes off, and that would also be nice in podcasting. We also have nostr.com and nostr.org, so we have a very much vested interest in podcasting on Nostr, and we love the work which is being done on podcasting on Nostr. We now sell Nippo 5s on nostr.com, and they're automatically LN addresses. So we try and make that kind of like onboarding process of joining Nostr and the Nostr ecosystem easier by offering like a professional NIP 5 service. And yeah, just loving the growth of. I must admit, I was kind of skeptical on value for value to begin with. So because I always kind of thought that people had got drunk on the the advertising model of being able to generate revenue, but it was really seeing Zaps in Noster and seeing how willing people are when it's easy to send some sats, just some content which they like and they appreciate. It's just a way of like more than just a like, more than just a retweet, like just actually send some value to somebody for their content. So I'm turned. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think we're not, like Adam said earlier, we're not making millions of dollars using value for value, but what we are making is hopefully millions of connections with the people who we're delivering our messages to. And so I think that's really neat, and it's reciprocal. It's not this one way, megaphone type thing. And so I think, my dad always said, you put your money where your mouth is, right? And so it's kind of like when you're putting your sats up to saying, yeah, I really dig this, that is better than just hitting the like button 10,000 times, which truly doesn't have that type of a value. So Adam has a question for you, Ben, and I'll let Adam go. And then I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of popcorn some talk around here, and then we'll go take a little time later, and I'll show all of the platforms in the background. Does that sound okay?
Hey, Ben, nice to meet you, man. I have a question. I've been an LM Bits user for a long, long time. I love it. There's a pull request that's been sitting around to add key send to the individual wallets. Brother, I would love it so much if you could take a look at that one. If that can be merged in, then we can use individual LM Bits instances kind of as an uncle, what was it, Tom? Uncle Ben,
Jim.
Uncle Dave, Uncle
Bob.
as a
Ben's
server.
right.
So it's been there for a while. I've commented on it. Dave Jones has commented on it. If that can be merged in, man, that would be a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've seen it, and I wanted it to get merged in, but if we just have this list, we're actually coming out of getting version 1 next month, so we're actually coming out of beta, and that's when the fun begins, and we can actually start like working through those PRs, which are like those added extras. But yeah, totally, I'll bump it. I'll bump it with the crew, and
Dude,
but thank you very much, Adam. I'm a massive fan, and that quote, there was a podcast you did early on, and it's when LM Bits was very young, and I was so impressed that you span it up when you were playing around with it. And you had this amazing quote where you're like, oh, holy shit, look at the things you could do with this LM Bits. And I pulled it out, and I was like, it's my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm a big fan of the work, man.
Time.
So I'd love if we can bring that even closer, because it's, as I said, it's something that is needed, and it'd be great if we can get that going.
Big bump key send PR. I'm on it.
Bump it.
Okay, so hey, why don't we do a live demonstration of how LN Bits works? I want to show you guys kind of like, this is something that's super interesting to me because, again, I'm still learning. I'm new. I'm not the super tech goddess. And, Ben was super generous and took, a long time helping me set up a cloud node and then getting LN Bits set up so that we could, do donations for the episode. Can we do a little, I'll show you guys something in real time. And then you guys are all going to get, I'm going to stream y'all or send y'all some sats.
Are you going to do the demo?
I'll just do a quickie, and then if you want to do something more detailed,
I didn't have it up, but I could get it up. But
I'll do quickie because that's me. I don't like quickies, but okay. So what's cool about why I wanted to use LN Bits in this type of splits was because when we were doing the registration for the event, I was like, how can we, because we can have people go donate, and do value for value, donate value for value. That's another thing I want to talk about is the word donate versus value for value. We'll get to that in a sec. But rather than just using, obviously fiat, it's like, how can I do this with Bitcoin? And so right now we've got this QR code. Let's make sure that it works. I did it earlier. It's going to send. I'm going to send. No, I got to go less than 1,000. Sorry, guys. 1, 2, 3, 100. Okay, there we go. I'm sending right now. So I created a specific wallet just for this particular event. And so this IP, we'll call it that event. And then so we go over to share this tab instead. So a few seconds ago, I just sent 1,000 sats to that first address, right? And so we're now in the LN Bits background at djval.biz. We set it up under my name. And so right now, 1,000 sats is coming into that address, and it should be going into these splits. And so what's cool is I can make up, Bitcoin for Podcaster Summit. I'm going to have a Bitcoin for Domestic Violence Summit on November 2nd. We're going to be doing Bitcoin for Families in December. And so each event.
I received my split right there.
Yeah, you got it. All right, cool. Yeah. So check it
Yay.
out. So it's so cool. So just like what you can do in Pod Home, you can do here. And so I can create, the split payments, and I'll say, cool, check it out. I sent this, I split it up between all of us and our addresses equally. I'm sending a few sats to OpenSats, who are obviously rocking and rolling with, funding open source development. And so you can change this, just like Adam was saying, you want to send 40% to your producer, et cetera. So that's like rinse and repeat. It's so easy to do. I was just like, wow, I can't wait to learn about this and teach other people how that can, help. And so, what do you guys think? Like
Well, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
what honestly, so what I was saying before about being very organic, the split payments thing. So originally it was during COVID. Crypto Graffiti did a DJ set. It was like some old bank thing, and it was for Bitcoin. And on the screen, he had a QR, and we made an extension for it. VHF made an extension with Crypto Graffiti, and he had a QR code on the screen. And if you tipped him enough money, you would get the download for the song. But then every time you tipped him, it would split the payment. So 10% went to the DJ, and then 90% went to the producer, which was so cool. And then it was like within our little community. It's funny because I was talking to someone about this the other day. When you get this new powerful tool of micropayments, like these, anonymous micropayments through the computer, it takes you, like these ideas seem so like obvious later on, but it took us a couple of years to get there. Just the idea that, oh yeah, we can, like, it doesn't cost us anything to split these payments across all these different wallets, all these different lightning addresses or whatever else. And then from the community, then we were like, okay, we needed to have a separate extension, which would be split payments, where you could just have that functionality pulled out of DJ Livestream. But it was just an example to me how it takes a while to kind of like think of all the incredible use cases you can have for just micropayments on the internet, and makes me very hopeful, because obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a blank canvas, a fertile ground. We can just throw ideas around and they'll grow into these beautiful plants.
Yeah, it is a blank canvas. And I think it's like super important for us to be in the mindset of experimentation. And really thinking in terms of like, how are we cross-pollinating each other's projects, and how are we cross-pollinating, the way that we're doing things? Because a lot of people, again, in like regular, normie world, are like, okay, don't come over here. You can't see what I'm doing, And I think in this community, I've found I've had so many conversations with so many developers and, founders and, artists and people. And it's all just like, hey, how can we do this? How can we make this better? And it feels like, yeah, it's like we want to compete with ourselves and with the technology to keep improving it, but it's not a zero-sum game. Like I win, you lose. It's like we win. When we win, we win. And I think just to me, that's been such a cool feeling to be in a part of, and so let's go ahead. Yeah, Ben.
Quickly, one more powerful example of the split payments thing, which is, to me, just still blows my mind, was there's an El Salvador coffee producer, and
yeah,
they
Espresso Pay
sell coffee in Europe, bags of coffee in Europe, and at point of sale, the payments split across the distribution line. But the most important point is that because it's Bitcoin, and because they accept Bitcoin in El Salvador, the unbanked coffee grower gets the Bitcoin at point of sale. So every time a bag of coffee is sold in Europe, boom, they get the sats in their wallet. And they were explaining to me the transition when you have a distribution line, when you have someone who's an unbanked producer and then banked, distribution, like there's a huge they lose a lot of money. So they were saying that by using Bitcoin and by them being able to then spend that Bitcoin in El Salvador, they were getting like 5 times more than they usually would at the sale of coffee. I thought it's amazing, like when you build the tools and then someone uses it for such a great use case. So anyway, that's nothing to do with podcasting. Just really liked it anecdotally.
No, and that's what's so cool, because it's like you think you build a technology that is, starting over here in this zone, but then it can be, spread out into all these other areas because it's simply value, right? And so I love thinking about, what are the other use cases that we don't understand that are going to start popping up that maybe we haven't thought about, so that's super important. What I want to talk about too, just, with what is the difference, and I'll bring Barry up here, with, between using Ellen Bits versus a pod home to do splits, because we've got RSS obviously, and and then we've got this Ellen Bits thing. So can you help the listeners understand, like, do you need to set it up two different ways, or what would be, do you have, one for one thing and one for another? Can you help people understand, Barry?
Let me try. So pod home is specifically for podcasters, right? So if you have or multiple podcasts, you go to pod home, you upload your stuff there, and then we distribute that to the podcast apps so that people can listen to it. And so within pod home, you can set your splits, you can set your lightning addresses. Like there's your show. For people that are listening, Valerie is showing pod home and her show here in the background. And therefore, the whole show, you can set up your V4V information. So the recipients that will receive the value in the lightning addresses. And you can also set that per episode. You can override that for a particular episode. And then you can, for instance, split that with your guest, or you can set a value time split for when you, for instance, play a value for value song. And then whenever somebody boosts during that episode, automatically the apps, and Oscar can tell more about how that would work. Specifically, the app will then send the value that you boost to the people in the splits, or to, for instance, the artist when the song is played in that particular timestamp of the episode. So I guess the difference is, for podcasters, this is all baked in for you here, easy to set up within Podhome. And for other use cases, Ellen Bits is a much broader thing, of course, right? So it's, for instance, for coffee people there, or for lots of other stuff. But this is just baked in for the use case itself. So for podcasters. And for Fountain, for instance, it's different. That's for podcast listeners. So there's these several use cases, and the products just make it very easy because all this functionality is just baked in so that you can easily set up the lightning addresses that will receive the value.
And for Ben and for you, Barry, if somebody, let's say, you set up, the episode has whatever, a couple splits, and, Bob at Get Alby, whatever. And then let's say that wallet goes away, right? Let's say somebody, doesn't have that wallet anymore, or it's not, is it going to mess up any of the splits, whether it's through the RSS feed or through Ellen Bits, or will it'll split to everybody, and those sats will just get hung in the world?
That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer. So what will happen in the RSS feed itself? The address will stay in the RSS feed even if the Lightning address doesn't exist anymore. That's just the text in the RSS feed, right? And then it depends on how, in this case, then the podcast app deals with sending that or not sending that.
But it won't. But like you're saying, it's like everybody else who's in that split will get what they have. But so it's not going to like screw something up for a.
Definitely.
Oh, I hear some background somewhere, guys. I'm not sure what that is. But and then Ben, what about you? Is there any issue, like if people are using Ellen Bits and there's a dead wallet or an incorrect, if somebody enters something incorrectly with the splits, is it going to mess up the whole thing? I think Ben might be frozen.
I can answer that.
Good,
that
thanks.
payment will just fail. All the other ones will continue. That payment will fail.
Okay.
And in all, for all intents and purposes, that money should not leave your wallet. That particular payment, but the rest, and most of the podcast apps all report that. If there's a failed payment, you can see it. It's usually highlighted, so you can. We have a very active community reaching out to each other, like, bro, your liquidity's gone.
Okay, got it. So then basically so let's say I'm sending whatever 1,000 sats and there's a split that's supposed to go, 50-50. If one of the wallets is dead, only 50% of my send will actually go, and then the other 50% will still stay in my wallet as a sender.
It's just a failed payment. That's the desired behavior. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
the way this works in Fountain, just to give an example, so we have a built-in wallet in the Fountain app, directly in the podcast app. This makes it really easy for your audience and any listener to get started. You can create a wallet just with an email address. And when you send a boost or when you start streaming money every minute, you'll see all of your transaction history on the wallet tab. So let's say you have an episode with 4 splits, and one of those splits fails. The other 3 will still go through, and you'll see in the Fountain app wallet which split failed. And we also have the ability to retry a failed split as well, because very occasionally we do have these individual split failures. So you can just retry that failed split at a later date. Like Adam said, there's a great community of people, pointing this out, and your audience will tend to point out if one of your splits failed and you need to go back and update that in the feed.
Awesome. And so, Oscar, while I've got you on here, why don't you help everybody understand again, like, how does Fountain work? And obviously we've got these other, listening platforms like, what, like Fountain, like for people who are boost me and I blow a cloud. Oh, um, let everybody know how does this work? And I know that there was something recently you guys did with integrating with Noster. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think for anyone that's watching or listening that either has a podcast or maybe is thinking about starting a podcast, the main thing I want to get across about Fountain is that it's a podcast app, and it does exactly what any of the other podcast apps out there do. So for your audience coming from a podcast app like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or any of these other, more mainstream apps, your audience are going to feel really comfortable, switching to Fountain. It's really easy for them to do that. We have import from Spotify, import from Apple, import from OPML. And our goal is to build, a listener experience that is first class, and it matches what you'd find on something like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So that's the first thing to say. It's really easy to get started. And then what we have is the built-in wallet that allows you to get started with the Bitcoin Lightning Network in an easy way, because that can be intimidating, especially if your audience doesn't necessarily, have a close alignment with Bitcoin and Lightning. And so as a listener, when you first download the app, the wallet is very simple. It's easy to get started. You can top up with a bank card. So you don't really have to have a prior experience with Bitcoin. And I think that's really important. A lot of the feedback we've received is many people that use Fountain and also the other podcasting 2.0 apps don't even think of the Satoshis that they're sending around as Bitcoin. They just think of it as this kind of like podcasting money that's fun, that can be sent at different amounts, customizable, split between different people, and also works between the different apps. So yeah, that's another high level overview of Fountain. And then I guess the other thing we're trying to do is make these payments more social. So we've always had a big focus on social activity in Fountain. For me, I love seeing the boosts that people are sending to different shows. Countless times I've discovered new episodes by seeing people's boosts in the feed. And that's something that podcasters have also told us again and again that they really value about Fountain, is that it's not just that this system makes it easy for you as a podcaster to receive money, but it also helps grow your show, because other people will see those boosts and think, wow, okay, Valerie sent 50,000 sats to that episode. What is that episode about? Let me at least go and click on the content card and, at least take a look at it. So we're trying to make the payments social. And yeah, in one of the most recent releases, we've integrated with Noster, which just solved some of the onboarding issues for us. Before, when you first downloaded Fountain, you wouldn't have a profile, you wouldn't have any followers, the app would feel a little bit empty and maybe even a bit lonely. Whereas now you can bring your Noster profile, and also the boost payments and the regular comments for episodes that don't have value for value set up can kind of be shared anywhere to other podcasting apps, onto other Noster clients as well. It's still quite early with podcasting and Noster, but yeah, that was, what we're trying to do there is the ultimate goal, which, Adam's talked a lot about. The ultimate goal is to have any listener send a boost on any podcast app, and that boost appears in all the other podcasting 2.0 apps, and anyone can reply to it and start a conversation. The cross app podcast comments is something that we're really trying to make work, and we think Noster's a great way to do that. So yeah, a lot of details there. I just encourage everyone listening to get started, download the app, set up a podcast on Podhome, and just experiment with sending a boost.
I love it. I think also, Oscar, so like, let's say, for example, right now, so because I'm set up to Noster, I believe I set this up and connected Fountain to Noster. So these comments that I was making for Heather and the ones she made, like, that's going to appear in any of my Noster feeds somewhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the way this works is, if you're listening to a podcast in the Fountain app and you choose to send a boost, which is a comment with a payment, or just leave a regular comment on the episode that you're listening to, that will be optionally broadcast to the rest of the Noster network, meaning that somebody just browsing their Noster feed on a client like Primal or Damus or Amethyst will see your episode comment in the feed, and we'll be able to reply to it, repost it, zap you to send you a few sats back. So it's optional, but you have the option to send that message more broadly than just the podcast app. The real intention behind this is it stops you having to choose as a listener which action to take. So you might finish an episode and think, wow, that was so amazing, that was so interesting, I can't wait to share this with people. And also, I'd love to support the podcaster, because that was valuable to me, and the last hour I spent was valuable. I want to send some value back. Right now, you have a choice between doing one of each of those things, or all three. So you could leave a comment, you could send a payment, you could share the episode link on an external social media platform like X, or Facebook or Instagram. What's cool about the Noster integration in Fountain is we've kind of combined all of those things, whereby you can send a payment to the podcaster and any of the downstream splits that we've talked about. You can leave a comment on the episode, other people going to the episode, and maybe your comment provides additional context to the episode that's helpful for people when they see it. And also, you can share the episode link and your message out into your main social feed. So that's the goal, and we think it's got a lot of opportunity for just kind of spreading the word about these episodes, and also the payment, because the payment data is all in there as well. So if other podcasting 2.0 apps want to query the data, which is all public, then they can query that data. It's really easy. It uses the podcast GUID tag that Adam and Dave kind of came up with as part of podcasting 2.0. So yeah, there's a lot there, but I think what we're trying to do here is we have open content distribution with RSS, and it's working amazingly. We're pushing it forward within podcasting 2.0, adding new mediums like music, adding new features all of the time. We have open payments with the Lightning Network. You can sign up to any number of Lightning wallets. There's loads of different services. You can pick the one that works best for you. And those payments work between every single app. And with Noster, what we have is an open kind of social graph. And I think for me, that's the missing piece, just to tie everything back together to have that goal of everything working on any app. So as a listener or as a content creator, you can choose, as Adam said earlier, there's 1,000 hosting companies, there's probably 1,000 podcasting apps. Maybe we're pushing on to 1,000 Lightning wallets, I don't know, but that gives people choice, both on the content creation side and the listening side. They can just pick and choose between all of those different things.
Love it. Thanks, Oscar. And so let's talk about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm a massive fan of what Oscar's done with Fountain. I think it's really interesting to take the social graph and then apply it to podcasting 2.0 and the value for value thing. Because, and I was talking to Oscar about this in Prague. If you just create those integration tools, which people can use in podcasting, but then across other platforms, games, whatever else, like it brings so many people into the Nosto ecosystem, and like that's clearly a very valuable proposition when it comes to social networking, with all the stuff which is happening with Twitter at the moment. So it's just like marrying. It's just you want audience, don't you? That's what you want. And if there's people actively giving you zaps and talking about the podcast you're doing on the 500,000 active Nostr users, and that number's going up, then that's only can be good for the content creator. So it's a huge achievement what Oscar did, and it's very brave as well, because it must have been such an overhaul for the software to get it to this point. But it's very interesting.
Yay, I love this. I love the celebration with everybody. Let's talk about like how the payments can work and what Get Alby is. And so I want to go back to that screen of Fountain. And so right here, I was just zapping Heather because she left me a nice comment. Thanks, Heather. And so I zapped her. You guys, I don't know if you can see. Does it show up that it says zapping? Yeah, it shows up zap. Okay. And so just straight from that interface, I can say, yo, love ya, and send my fan back some sats because she was sending me stuff. Okay. And so then now what happens here, can you guys see the pop-up of the Alby? Yeah. And so, Moritz, can you talk about this and how Alby is integrated into the extensions and how we can pay from our browsers? Obviously, you can pay from within the apps, but also paying from within browsers, I think, is also kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's actually really the idea of Alby is we do not want to build another like disconnected wallet for Bitcoin payments, but something that you can bring wherever you go and whatever use case you have. So for example, here right now, what you see is you're using, I guess, a web app, for example, and you want to interact with this web application. And you can do that very nicely and smoothly with the Alby extension, right? So that's one way you can do that, for example. And this is really the idea of bringing payment to professional applications, and we have a bunch of them. So you see them, for example, on getalby.com/discover. That's a list of applications, and you will also find there quite a lot of podcasting apps, either podcast hosting services or podcast listener apps, because we think that like these are apps that they are great in providing their service, right? So I think we can just improve them a little bit by adding a payment wallet. So the user has the feeling that they do not actually use a separate wallet, but they can use rss.com, for example. The list is on getalby.com/discover. So they use Blueberry, for example, if as a podcast hosting service, rss.com, or Barry's Pod Home, directly within the application, right? If you scroll a little bit down, you see that there are quite a bunch of podcasting apps where you can use or connect your Alby wallet, for example. So I think exactly here. So this list in general also shows how big the ecosystem of Bitcoin apps has already grown over the last years. So you can actually do quite a lot when it comes to distributing your content, adding your Alby wallet to that special application, for example, and often core is a lightning address that you get from Alby. It looks like your email address. You can plug it into Podhome, for example, and connect your wallet in that way. And I also hope, for example, that you can also connect your Alby account or Alby wallet soon to Fountain. If Oscar is interested, that would be awesome as well. I
Yeah,
think.
definitely hope to add that support soon. Moritz, yeah.
Yeah.
This is
So yeah.
Yeah, no, this is incredible. Like it's just it's overwhelming too because it's like, oh my gosh, what else? What am I missing out here? What am I forgetting? Am I not? Um, like for people who are listening right now, who are maybe just brand new to Bitcoin, brand new to Lightning, brand new to Nostr, brand new to all of this, like where would you guys suggest that we have a step 1, step 2, step 3, um, you know intake for folks? Like what would be a proper easy onboarding for new people who might be listening? Who wants to tackle that?
I guess
Barry.
if you're a podcaster, obviously go to Podhome and just start an account there. But also just go to the podcastindex.org, and they have a list of apps that are hosts and also podcast apps that are all modern apps that have all these modern features, including V4V and lovely things like live, for instance, chapters, transcripts, all that type of stuff. And you can pick and choose and go play with the things that you like. And from there, you get sucked into the ecosystem of also, for instance, Alby accounts, and from there V4V and Bitcoin. So I think that might be a good on-ramp.
Awesome. Any other suggestions? What's step 2? There's, after we do all that, go get an Alby wallet.
Of course, you can do that. So yeah, sign up. You will get a self-custodial Alby wallet, which is called Alby Hub.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like the easiest to use, actually, one of the easiest to use self-custodial Lightning wallets out there. And the cool thing is that it's extremely flexible. Yeah, exactly. That's you can connect it to an Alby extension. You can connect it to Alby Go, bring it in your pocket everywhere where you are. So the idea is, don't just let your sats stay in one place and you cannot use it when you move around. But now you can bring your sats everywhere where you go. And there are actually, if you could click on the App Store, like 2 apps I would like to highlight there. If you are like a Alby Hub runner, then you can really make it extremely easy for your family and friends, because we have a dedicated application which is called exactly the same. You will find that in the second row in the middle. Yeah, and here you basically can now create sub accounts of your Alby Hub for family, for friends, for other podcasters, for podcast listeners, for example, and just follow their instructions. They can add that to an Alby account, for example, to an extension. And the cool thing is, in the last line, you will also see that these sub accounts are fully podcasting 2.0 compliant. So every one of them, every sub account also has the node key, the custom value, custom key, basically all they need to receive value for value payments. And we did that also because we think that these podcast payments are extremely good use case and a very, very important ecosystem now that we see there. So that's one way also to onboard more users, to give them a Lightning wallet. So because there's always a little bit of less knowledge, but you will have just the tools there to help others getting started.
And Moritz, I know you guys at Alby, you guys do, is it every week or every month you do like calls with all the people and that kind of helping people understand how to use Alby and what the new stuff is? Like, can you help people understand, how to get on board and just make sure that they're not accidentally losing their keys or putting stuff on a piece of, the back of a sticky note? You want to help people understand. Obviously, we need people. Step one is making sure you understand how to protect your keys, and I think that's very important. A lot of people
Yeah. Yeah, actually,
we're
we do
used to
that twice
passwords
a
and
week.
centralized authorities holding on to our value and our wealth.
Yeah. So no, I think it's up to everyone to say, okay, do I trust a custodian or do I want to manage it myself? We just want to make it extremely easy for people to manage it themselves, right? And but we also know that we need to invest a lot in education, and we do that. We have 2 calls per week on Tuesday evening, like Tuesday Europe time in the evenings and lunchtime on Thursday. And you can sign up for these calls on cal.com/getalby. And these are usually very, very fun sessions where we come together. It's around 5 to 6 people every time, and then we talk about all things Alby Hub, key management, channel management, everything that they need to know, basically.
That's amazing. I love it. I know. I think education. A lot of people, we think like, oh, I watched a Bitcoin podcast or I did a thing. It's like, it's a lifelong journey so far for me. I still feel like every day I'm learning something brand new about, the philosophy or the technology. Certainly I'm not a cryptographer or a developer. So it's like, there's always something that I think we're learning. And I think sometimes, I don't know, I'd love to hear from any of you guys about this in your experience, but it's like kind of like a stairway, right? A stairway to Satoshi. But it's like, you don't have to go on all the steps. Like, you don't have to run a node. You don't have to be a developer. You don't, you can just be on the first rung and you'd be totally fine, but getting off zero to me is the most important thing that we can help new people understand about Bitcoin, and certainly creatives. So what do you guys think about, what's been your journey with trying to help, with your community and educating them about Bitcoin? Whoever
I
wants
think
to
it's like
pop in.
critical mass stuff, isn't it? It's like you start educating some people, and then some people learn how to spin up a node or whatever, and spin up whatever, and then it's just more people learn these new tools. It takes a little while, but they get used to using these tools. But it's getting easier. Like we did more recently, I did a YouTube video for Alby, and it was running on Phoenix D, and Phoenix D is like a self-custodial but managed node by Async.
That's what you ran me through.
Yeah, that's what I ran you
Like the
through.
day
And it's
before.
just
Yeah.
it's a really nice solution because you get a self-custodial node, but you don't have to faff around with channels. And for a lot of people, that's great. That's what they want. And then for others, or maybe in time they'll want to shift that across to running their own node. And like with some of the Alby, we made that easy. You can just like swap it out. And it's fine. But it's just it's just coming up with. There's just all these new solutions which are coming out for running your own Lightning stuff. And before we had like custodial and we had non-custodial, and non-custodial was a pain in the ass, but now we have like these like non-custodial but the kind of managed solutions which make life a little bit easier. But I would say when it comes to podcasting, I use Fountain, and it's really spectacular. Like it was a great experience. I like Nostr. I'm on Nostr a lot, so my go-to Nostr client is Amethyst. So I think if you got Amethyst, you got Fountain, you're engaging with podcasters, you're sending some value for value. And then if you want to do podcasting, there's a bunch of solutions, but you can with Alby, you can spin that up, play around with it, spin up yourself. You can use it. We have a SaaS solution, my.almbits.com, you can play around with if you want to. 21 sats an hour to run an Alby. You can run an Alby for a few hours and then drop it. Or for show my own stuff here, but for Alby, if you go to the Alby YouTube, we have a bunch of tutorials for like spinning up on something like Phoenix D, which makes running your own self-custodial Lightning node a gazillion times easier. But no, it's great. I mean, it's there was a period earlier on in the year where people were kind of flooding on Lightning, but I think it was more we had like fees go up because of ordinal stuff, and then people's channels got balked and everyone was freaking out. But from that, from that demand, now we have all these great solutions for sort of self-custodial, being able to being able to use the Lightning Network in a kind of self-custodial way. And there's a bunch of really interesting solutions coming out.
What do you guys see as the next wave of innovation with Lightning, with Bitcoin, with podcasting 2.0? Is there something that is like cooking that we're not aware of, or are we like kind of all in the crock pot right now? Like, what do you guys see in the future?
I really love there's the service called Bolts, which is trustless atomic swaps in and out of Lightning, Liquid, and on chain, and we have a Bolts extension in Allen. It's very useful, so you can like say if you're using somebody else's Allen bits, if you're using the Uncle Jim model, then you could just set this extension up and say every £200 which goes into this wallet, or $200 which goes into this wallet, just loop out to on chain. And then so what we've done is we've also used that as a funding source, so you can actually have a Liquid wallet and then fund your Allen bits using a Liquid wallet. And when you create a transaction, it does this trustless atomic swap to Liquid. It's how the Lightning wallet Aqua works, the Liquid wallet Aqua, so you can send and receive Lightning payments, and it's so fast. But I love that idea of having much more interoperability between on-chain Lightning and Liquid. And although it sounds a bit technical for now, and it's not clearly not ready for mass use, I think there's a lot of legs in it, and I'm looking forward to more people innovating and playing around with that.
And then I haven't even touched Liquid. I don't know what, like, is there something you want to share that would be relevant to podcasters with what is Liquid?
It's just another solution for like, if you want, something self-custodial, but you don't want to run a node. You could have these trustless atomic swaps going into and have a Liquid wallet. And Liquid it's proved itself over the years that it's a pretty decentralized federation of so it's a federated blockchain sidechain from Bitcoin. But they put Blockstream, the people who manage the federation, they put a lot of legwork and funds into keeping it decentralized, and it's a good solution for people who don't want something custodial, and again they don't want to run their own node, or perhaps maybe they just use something like Phoenix D. But it's yet another. I think it's just like getting as many weapons in our tool set, isn't it, for building on, and just seeing what people can build. But I really love the interoperability between different layers. I think it's cool.
Yeah, that seems super functional, like Lego blocks is building. And I think that's, what Adam, you were talking about earlier, is just that obviously these protocols, right? We don't want to be stuck on one platform. We don't want to be limited on anything. We want to be able as humans and creators to not be stuck and trapped in something. So that interoperability is important. Like for people who are listening who might not understand the difference between protocols versus platforms, does somebody want to tackle that? Adam.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think of an analogy here, which may not be a very good one, but with the protocol, or RSS is actually not even a protocol, it's a format.
What's the difference between a format and a protocol?
Holy crap. Some of the other guys are going to have to grab that one for me. I mean, RSS it's so simple, and it originally stood for really simple syndication. I like saying rock solid syndication. The whole concept behind it is you don't need to be technical. You just need to be able to write this text file, and you can drop it anywhere, and it can be ingested. It's just a document that tells a podcast app, here's where all the information is. Here's where my MP3 files are. Here's the description of each individual episode, etc. So it's so simple. The difference really with the platform is that you own that. So you can put that wherever you want. You can change hosts. You can put it on a different server. You can drop it into an Amazon S3 bucket. There's all kinds of places you can put it. With the platform, once you sign up to the platform, they control it. This is what deplatforming is all about. So, no one can, if X goes away tomorrow, everybody's social media goes away. If one podcast host goes out of business, assuming you registered your own domain name and attach that to your RSS feed where it's sourced from, you can change overnight. In fact, the podcast hosting industry is set up so nicely that redirects are put in place as a courtesy. So if you move, that host will actually tell all the podcast apps, oh, this feed has moved over here, and from now on, get it over here. So it's a much more open way of syndicating or distributing the information that is that pertains to your content and where it comes from. What it doesn't have, and this is kind of what's interesting with Nostr. So Nostr, very similar, although there's a protocol, but it's still basically you're sending notes over relays. So you're sending text files through relays so that everybody can pick them up. What is missing from Nostr and what people initially don't understand and they're confused is there's no algorithm. And so it's good and bad. On one hand, when you first jump onto Nostr, you're like, where's the stuff? Where's all the good? How do I get stuff? So you have to start building up your follows and what you want to aggregate within your Nostr app. Whereas you get onto X or Facebook or Instagram or Threads or whatever, and they will determine for you what you want to see, and based upon what you look at, they're going to give you more of that, which of course gives you the illusion that this is a great place to hang out, but it also puts you in great peril because they can basically mess with your mind at any moment by giving you whatever they want to for whatever reason. Now, in some cases, Tina, my wife, loves Instagram because if she's looking for shoes, the algo immediately strikes and gives her shoes, and then she can switch to dogs, and she can, and the algo picks that up pretty quickly. But, and I have to remind her all the time, did you see what just slipped in there? Okay. That's what they're doing. And ultimately their plan is to keep you on their platform for as long as possible. So they'll do whatever it takes to keep you on there as long as possible.
Yeah, and it's fun. Hold on one second, Ben, and I'll let you come back. I'm going to talk about Tina and her dogs and shoes. Like I just went through a breakup, over the summer. It was pretty gnarly, Bob Marley, and I like, oh, I'm going to scroll and oh, look at this nice quote, and I mean, literally everything was filled with believe in yourself and you're worthy and everything. And I was like, oh, Instagram's trying to help heal my heart because I'm suffering right now and I just got dumped. You got dumped. But but it's so from that lens, it was like the shoes or I got affirmations, but it did keep me there longer. And then I'm getting exposed to all the advertising bullshit. Right. And so Ben, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to, tail on Adam's thing there.
I wanted to give Adam some hope. So there's a lot of work being done actually on the algorithms for Nostr. So, but then also for you to have a level of control as a user over your algorithm. So clients and relays, because your client can have an algorithm for finding content and content discovery, but Primal they're adding little toggle switches. So perhaps you have like 2 degrees of separation. So your friends, you see their content. And then maybe you find your own little echo chamber and you can just move this little toggle and then have 3-4 degrees of separation. I know Rabble, who was the person who actually employed Jack Dorsey, he's doing a lot of work with Nos.social on user control of algorithms. Obviously, you don't want to be have decision fatigue. Like a lot of this stuff can be baked into the client. But there is, just to put your mind at rest, Adam, there is some really interesting, and it's quite fascinating. So it's like, money was a dirty word until we had Bitcoin. Algorithms a dirty word until we have user control. But actually, when you have user control of algorithms, I think what Primal are planning to do is have kind of an algorithm market or a feed market where people can share their algorithms. So if you create a great algorithm, you could share it with people, and I can't imagine that kind of computer science being done, like the algorithms in Twitter or Instagram or wherever else. It's a closed source thing, which they don't allow you to have access to, so you don't know how you're being pushed in either direction. Whereas, I think it's one of the coolest things in us is we're going to have this kind of open environment where these algorithms are developed, and we'll get this incredible permissionless development which we see across the Nostr ecosystem. So although it's not quite there yet, like 2 weeks, like it's a coming. It'll be great.
Amen to that, brother. That's exactly the way to go. I look forward to it.
I do too. I think that's super interesting. I have a question for you guys, and this is a little side thing, but it has to do with obviously, content 2.0 for the future for all of content in general. And Adam, you touched on this earlier about bring down Spotify, screw those guys, let's build the new world here. And we think about micropayments and the friction of micropayments, right? And so for me mentally, sometimes I want to send a boost because I just listened to something, but I forget to do the boost, but I know I've got something in the background that, automatically, because I have stuff set to streaming. What do you guys think? Like I've been talking to Abu Bakar with B Trust, and I came up with this little concept, and I've been talking with Mike, also. And so just a couple different people about kind of the super fan wallet idea. So imagine you have one wallet that, let's say each month you fund it with, $10, $20, whatever. I'm a patron. And so instead of having a whole bunch of subscriptions over here with my patron, then I support this and I support that show. And then I've got to go remember to go zap everybody and la, la, la. So mentally, to me, as somebody who really does want to support my creators and the consumption that I'm partaking in, I don't want to think about that. I just want to go consume, and then perhaps at the end of the month, that $10 budget or however many sats. Let's say I'm Michael Saylor, I have $1 million because I'm a patron of the arts. Each month it gets topped off, and so I would have like my value for value budget each month, and then it would pull all of my consumption data from every platform that I consumed content from, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Fountain, whether it's, anywhere, whether it's a website that I read an article from. And so somehow getting permission from all of those platforms to get, the consumption data and then say, cool, this is, I want to push the button or have it just automatically go. And then instantly it's going to go into all of those IP wallets that each of those pieces of content has. And then it'll subsplit into, if you've got the producers or a movie or whatever. Do you feel like that's something that is that buildable?
Well, there's already a version of this, truefans.fm,
okay,
where you can set exactly that. You can set a budget and it will auto pay when a new episode drops, whether you've listened to it or not. But go back to my previous statement. I won't repeat it, but let's not waste any time on trying to integrate Netflix and Disney and Hulu into this. We'll be just fine. There's Indie Hub is another. Indie Hub is focusing specifically on films, documentaries, and they're also on the value for value train. So I'm always very cautious, but I would just say there's no reason to try and go get those guys to come along because they have no interest in that. They are the enemy.
But they have the catalog, and so that's kind of for me as a consumer.
Now, let me say something about
bring
that.
It.
Okay, let me say something because I was very concerned. I started Boostagram Ball, which is very hard for me to do on a regular basis. But as a disc jockey, as a top 40 radio guy, I was like, if I can't play AC/DC Back in Black, I don't think I'm going to like doing this show because this is the kind of stuff that I need. And once I went into the catalog of what is available value for value, which you can see in many different places, lmbeats.com gives you a full listing of everything, not just Wavelake, but all the DMU, decentralized music that is hosted on other platforms. Once you go in there and you start to listen and you listen to other music podcasts and you hear it reminded me, you hear a song 3 times, a good song is like, oh yeah, I'm humming this song now. That's a hit. And what it really brought back for me was that the industry, of course, had figured this out in the 50s. If you just repeat a good song is a good song. If you keep repeating it, then it will become a hit and more people will want to hear it and more stations will play it. And it's not like they've got the good stuff or they've got the catalog. The catalog is out there that is not on the streamers, is much bigger, much richer, more fun, more interesting than anything available on the Netflixes, etc. Now, Are the big budget movies there? Well, some. We're seeing this very slowly. We're seeing things crop up. I think the Daily Wire guys are doing interesting things. Matt Walsh just put his "Am I Racist" movie in theaters, which is, that's very tough to do as an independent distributor. But they're also streaming things online, and they're making it available online. Mike Smith has Out of the Shadows, Into the Light, 2 separate movies that you can stream online for payment. So yeah, all the promotion around something, it's like, oh, they have the catalog, but we're making our own catalog. The stuff that's out there is astronomical in scope, in scale. We just have to kind of harness it into these new systems where people can get compensated for the work that they did. And also like Indie Hub with the splits, same thing, it's like you can immediately send payments onto the catering. You don't have to have it all trickle down, through ASCA or through SAG, AFTRA, etc. These are all companies that hold your money for 48 months, and the penny drops out, and Taylor Swift wins. So let's just forget about that. They're not going to come. We're wasting our time if we're going to try and go after them. And quite honestly, I find what people are creating themselves with the technology that's available. Not a fan of Apple anymore, but the new iPhone does make cinematography quite amazing. I'm looking forward to what we're seeing from independents around the world who now finally have a way to actually get compensated.
I think with FIFA V
sorry,
as
go
well,
ahead.
it's kind of the fun bit is like using it as a way of rewarding the content. So I suppose for some subscriptions are useful for some purposes. When you like me and you forget to like renew your web hosting or whatever. But the fun bit of FIFA V and for engagement is really, you listen to something, you're like, oh yeah, that really resonates with me, and you just have that yearn to send something, to give them some affirmation beyond a like, and I think by setting something like that up, although some people will use it, I think it's like it's almost taking the fun out of it. Like I can imagine like in Fountain maybe we have you could just like Adam said, it exists in some other platforms where you can have a budget and depending on the content you listen to, you get it to auto send some sats. But for me, it's the fun bit when I consume something. I want to say thank you by
It
sending
is,
some
and
sats.
so that the thing is, it's not about removing that part, but it's just making sure you CYA, you cover your ass as far as just like, oops, I didn't forget to contribute to my
Yeah,
folk,
like be a patron.
and I didn't
Yeah.
go over budget, because if you're going in all these other little areas, and let's say I'm a single mom, right, and it's like I want to have a $10 a month tipping budget. I don't accidentally keep blowing my wad over here and being like, oops, I forgot to tip over here, or do my value for value. So I want to be mindful of my own consumption model, and I want to be mindful of, making sure that everybody gets, a fair shake kind of thing. And it's obviously adjustable. So it's like, if this month I don't want to, spend this much because of my kid's birthday, I'm going to lower my threshold kind of thing. Or next month it's like, woohoo, I got a deal, then something's awesome, I'm going to up level my contributions, to everybody. Adam wants to share the screen, and then I want to talk about Open Mic is doing something too about independent artists and stuff that we're going to be doing in Austin in December. So we'll be talking about that. But yeah, let's see, Adam.
Yeah, so this is Helipad. This is connected directly to my Lightning node,
Okay.
and this is part of the excitement that I get. And I do a number of different shows, and so you'll see different shows in here. But this is literally coming in right now. It's like almost every minute you're seeing
cool.
my splits. You see the amount that I'm getting for that split. You see here, in this case, it was a song that was played. I get a very small piece. There you go. There's Eric PP. So I got 20% of 500 sats. This is just streaming. So he's
Wow.
sending 500 sats while streaming. And this just goes on and on and on. There's a lot of Fountain in there, by the way, but there are different apps. And then so it's very exciting when you release a podcast And the minute you release it, you just start to see this stuff just roll in, because that's real time. That's someone actually listening to. That's not a download number. That's showing someone who is listening in real time. They are hearing what I made, what I produced, and they are rewarding me with just boosting is loving. I say they're rewarding me in real time, and so over here you can see the boosts. Take a second to load. And here's all the messages. And by the way, we got a 500,000
Yay, open mic. Thanks,
dollar
brother.
boost from open mic. It's and as you heard, there's some sounds. So if someone hits a certain amount, it triggers a sound. I mean, there's nothing that makes me smile more when I'm walking around the house and all of a sudden from the studio, I hear, the big baller jingle, or I hear the harp going because someone sent a 7777. I mean, this is real interactive, amazing stuff that's going on here, where I've sent something out into the universe. People are enjoying it. They're letting me know in real time, often automatically.
Wow, this is amazing. And I like that you can see everybody, who it is. Can you go back, Adam, on this screen? Can you click, right now, can you click open mic and then send him back a message or anything here? Or is this just
Some
more of a...
some apps actually allow that. For instance, here's Eric PP. He sent 8,008. So automatically I get those little 8 balls.
Okay.
So I can go back here and I can say, this is from Adam, and I'll send him 1,000 sats, and I'll say, thank you, brother. Oops. And I'll undo cap lock. Hey, boomer.
Boomer thumbs.
All right. And then I hit that boost, and okay. And I got an error. It looks so good. Oh, here we go. No. Okay. So that's the concept.
Yep.
You can't do it with every single with every single app.
But this is an aggregator thing that's coming in for all of your
Yeah. So Helipad is open source. Eric PP actually maintains it.
Nice.
And you literally can load. So I run a Start 9 for my node. I love those guys. It makes it nice and easy. It's rock solid for me. You just load this app, and it goes right into your Lightning node and picks up all this information from all of the individual payments. And not everyone supports all the different pieces of it, but it's really nice when you can see. If I go back here a little bit, you can see on Podcasting 2.0, we played a song. I think that was Ainsley Costello. Let's see. Oh, this is a different one. We played I Want to Be Your Woman from the Aqueducts. And so 5,000 sats came in. I actually got nothing because I send all of that on to the artist.
Cool.
And, you click on here, and then it's going to open up the page with that artist. So it all kind of, because it's all open, these are open formats and protocols, anybody can build something cool on top of it.
Wow, that's awesome. And so just to clarify, so for example, Barry, if I'm setting up, you were saying, if I want to play a song for whatever, 5 minutes, and I'm playing Ainsley's song at, minute number 10 to 15 or whatever, I could put that into Podhome. I could put Ainsley's address there, and then
you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to do that. We've made it so seamless. You literally look up the song. You then copy paste this. It's called a value time split. You copy that into your system. I'm sure Barry works. I think with Barry it's even simpler. You don't even have to copy paste anything, and it automatically brings in all of that information from Ainsley's feed. So it's completely seamless. There's all kinds of great tools that we have that make that really simple for everybody.
Wow, this is so amazing. Does anybody have any comments on that? Do you want to?
One thing on that, I'll just add. I think the music podcasts are one of the coolest things that's happening within podcasting 2.0 and value for value. The ability to switch the money to go directly to the artist when the song is playing is just so cool. And also because all of the metadata around which song is playing is available. apps like Fountain can display the track list on the episode page and also directly from the player. So, you can be listening to Adam whilst he's doing Boostergram Ball. You hear a song at minute 25 that you like. You can just quickly look at the player, tap the track list, find the track, and add it to your library.
There you go, 777.
And so I think this is something that's really cool. I would also recommend for any podcasters listening, because the music podcasts are so new, all of them are value for value. And so if you're looking for some shows to go and listen to get a sense for how best to communicate the ask, or just get an understanding of some of the terminology, I would definitely go and check out the music podcast. We actually have a section in the Fountain search page that features a few different music podcasts, including Boostergram Ball from Adam. So I would go and check those out, because I think the music shows really show a broad section of everything that's on display within podcasting 2.0.
Amazing. I love it, love it, love it. Any other feedback or comments, guys, about, how to help people understand this technology that I think is going to be changing our world? And I love, Adam, what you were saying. You remind me of Buckminster Fuller, right? Like, let's just build the new world. We don't need to keep putting fuel into this old one that's obviously not working and toxic. I think that's a philosophy a lot of us share. Yeah, I think it's really important. Just with
Sure,
it
if you have,
supporting, sorry,
if
just
you've come
supporting like.
already across.
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
Regarding your ask for an app that allows you to allocate a budget for
Yeah.
someone that you like to support, you could have a look at Zap Planner, for example. So that's an
Zap
app.
Planner.
Zap Planner, yes, exactly. So that allows you to set up recurring payments according to your own schedule. So all you need is a Lightning address from the person that you would like to support. So I actually did that before the show for your own Lightning address. And then I defined an amount, and then I can say how often I want to pay you. I can do that on a daily basis, hourly basis, or weekly basis, right? And I then connect my wallet. It actually works with a lot of different wallets, not only with Alby accounts, and then payments go regularly out to the person that you defined here, basically. And that is also backed by a budget, actually. So you can say how much you want to spend, and if it's gone, like the budget is gone, then also the recurring payment stops then for the month.
Got it. But you still have to manually go in and, so this would be similar to like a patron model, right? So I would maybe go in and say, yay, I want to support Oscar because he's awesome. And I want to, make sure he gets 1,000 sats a month from me or something like that, whatever it is. I think I'd like this model for sure. And I also wonder, on top of it or in conjunction with it, it's just that like, in the background, just knowing that there's a base layer that anything that I actually consume. So whether I consume 1,000 units of content or 4 units of content, regardless of the source, that I know that my the folks that I'm consuming content from are going to have some, form of value that I get to offer them, And so I think there's, it's like a little matrix. We put them all together, hopefully, and put something, that we can feel good about being content consumers and content creators, getting value. But so Open Mic with Toonster, is very interested, obviously, in supporting independent artists and independent creators, and so I think, what Adam was saying earlier is just like there's a multitude, there's so much out there that we can start, putting our attention towards. I think it's very important that we do support the upcoming creators that are Bitcoiners, and that are, freedom lovers. So, yeah. So any other thoughts? I know we're at 2:30 or 12:30 right now. About does anybody have any thoughts that they want to share before if we want to open it up? I don't know if anybody in the audience has any questions, but I want to make sure you guys all got out what you want to get out, because it's super. I know this could go on for a minute.
So we've talked about like the bells and whistles, right? And money, V for V, all that type of stuff. But I think the essence here is freedom, right? Freedom of information, freedom of creativity, and freedom also then of money,
Yeah.
right? So this whole ecosystem, like Adam said in the beginning, from the podcast index to the apps, to the hosting platforms, to the wallets, through all of the sats that flow through it, all provide the listeners, the creators, and everybody in between freedom. And that is extremely important, especially in these times. Like, I have a couple of customers that have been kicked off of every other platform, and they now host with us. And we promise to keep it up, of course, and we will not censor. We might not agree with the messages that they say, for instance, always, but that doesn't matter. We believe in freedom of speech. So with hosting like that, and with RSS feeds, and then with modern podcast apps that take that information from the podcast index, for instance, which is not a platform and will never censor you either, then you have this whole chain of freedom. And so if we all opt in to that and use all these modern things, like, for instance, Fountain and other modern apps, then we all choose freedom of information as well. So that's very important. So I think we should all just do that.
Yeah, I love that point, Barry, because I think about, we that phrase, you vote with your dollars, and it's kind of like doing these things. We're voting with our attention for freedom, and if we're choosing to use these other tools, it's going to keep fortifying that as like how we want to live as human beings on planet Earth. Obviously, there's so many folks out there that aren't allowed to use their voices. Obviously right now we've got free Ross is in jail for coding. We've got women who can't speak, they can't even leave their homes in certain parts of the world without wearing, almost a garbage bag over their head, and having a male escort from their family. And so those of us who have the luxury and privilege of our voices, I think it's up to us to continue to keep pushing that forward even brighter, and being a light for other people, not to be afraid, and then setting an example by, the tools and the places where we put our attention. So I love that comment. Anybody else?
My internet sucked. What was the question?
I'm hungry. I need lunch.
Yeah. Go eat. We're at like 2:30. We're at kind of the Q&A hour. And I just wanted to see if anybody had any final thoughts, if they want to share, and want to make sure you guys got your messages out. And if there happen to be any questions from the audience, we'll be happy, we can take them.
I would say that the freedom of speech requires freedom of movement, freedom of association. You should be able to take your data anywhere. You should be able to move anywhere between platforms. It needs to be interoperable. Walled gardens are prisons. It's only a matter of time until people realize that these centralized platforms can push agendas if they want to, and people are starting to realize that with Twitter. And that just does makes our work infinitely easier, because people become disenfranchised. They look for alternatives, and there are alternatives being built right now. And then we just need to have those alternatives ready for when those people arrive. But yeah, it's all about free speech, and we just try and make free speech easier by making it even easier for people to control their own stuff.
Totally. Mortiz, Oscar?
Also, I think people should not be afraid of starting to use these value for value apps, because what I've experienced from this community that has already been formed around that, everybody is extremely welcoming and supportive. So if something does not work out at the first time, everybody would be there to help you. And I think just like tipping the toe into the water and just get off and download one of these apps and start using it and get yourself familiar with it. No need to set up a wallet from the beginning, but listen to these podcasts, learn, and then continue from there.
Love it. Oscar?
Yeah, I would just echo what Moritz said. Don't be scared of any of this. It's all really, really easy. Download Fountain, set up a wallet in a couple of taps, and top up with a bank card, and then listen to some of the other podcasts that are successful already with value for value. You can check out fountain.fm/charts, where you can see all of the top shows each week, top episodes, and just listen to how they communicate the value for value ask and get a sense for what type of language is going to fit for you. So yeah, don't be scared. It's really easy. And if you have any feedback about Fountain, feel free to reach out. My email is oscar@fountain.fm, and we're always looking for feedback.
Love it. Thanks, Oscar. Thanks, everybody, for being on the panel. You guys, what do you think about this question here from Philinese? Sorry if I'm mutilating your name. I apologize. Is it going to be possible in the future for DJs to mix a set together with V4V music, like on a sample level at a live venue or like a turntable list?
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Then somebody needs to have like a sample pack that they upload as RSS and then attach V4V information, for instance, to that, which I'm not sure if that is already around. I wouldn't be surprised if that is already somewhere, like on Wavelake or something. The question then is, can you do it live? I think you're asking. I don't know about that, license-wise and all that type of stuff, because that is different, of course. It already is, I see in the comments. So a sample pack probably already exists in the value verse that you can use. But the live aspect, I don't know.
Adam, didn't you say you guys use stems and do a bunch of stuff with the No Agenda community?
Well, so we can do the the value time splits live. I don't know how. It just comes down to the speed of the app and processing the payments at that point. And if someone's throwing samples in, for instance, I have a kind of like a radio playout system, and whenever I hit a song, which could easily be a sample, it immediately changes the value block in my live feed, which I think many of the podcast apps already use that. I know Fountain does, Podcast Guru, CurioCaster. So the minute that happens, the value block changes and the payment information that those apps receive changes. It would be, if you're just doing samples of a second or so, I mean, that might be tasking the system, but certainly mixing stuff together should not be a problem at all. I mean, I could even see where we can overlap. No one's done it yet, but you can certainly overlap those value blocks during the mix. It would be a fun project to test. I mean, technically, I see no reason why it wouldn't work. It already works today in a live environment. The Boostergram Ball, I do it live. So the minute I hit the next song, the value block switches. Mix is a little different. So we'd have to see how you mix the value time splits together. But hey, someone out there interested, let's do it.
Let's do it. And that's what's so fun. It's like, hey, who wants to do it? Okay, let's go play. That's such a cool thing. Okay, live time splits are awesome. I'd like to do it for my Mac, but hitting hurdles. Yeah, it sounds like we need to work on some tech here, guys, for some DJs and tunes in the future. So are there any other questions from the audience, guys? If not, these guys are getting hungry. Adam, I know, is taking 2.5 hours to be here with us. I can hear his tummy grumbling through that really good mic of his. Yeah, I've not seen him.
Randy, you're hosting with me, so if you just hit me up to what you are running into on your Mac, and then we'll figure that out, okay? Just send me a message.
Awesome. Love it, guys. Well, I am so grateful for everybody who tuned into this live and everybody who's going to be watching these recordings. We're going to be cutting them up and, getting some information out to people so we can help new podcasters get on board. Hey, Adam, what about Joe Rogan? Why is he going to be on podcasting 2.0 soon? What's going on with that dude?
This is like the number one question, not even question. People tell me, You got to tell Joe. You got to tell Joe.
Yeah.
No one tells Joe anything. When I go on Joe, I can talk about what I'm doing. I can talk about, Bitcoin. And I've done all of that. You're not orange pilling him right. You're not doing it right. Okay. Joe is Joe, and Joe will do his thing. And, again, it's like he's almost legacy media in this case, so we don't need Joe for this to be successful. Just because Joe does it, will that make it better? Or no? I mean, in fact, one of the things when we started the index is, we said we want to make sure we pave the way for the next Joe Rogan. That's the idea here.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea too. I know. I think about, people will get Bitcoin when they get it and when the time is right, but I guess because I feel that there is a sense of urgency for the people on the planet who need Bitcoin as a tool to escape authoritarian regimes, as people who need it to escape domestic violence. I'm going to be hosting a Bitcoin for Domestic Violence Summit in November with women in distress. And so for me, like, I want to make sure that the powers that be don't mutilate and strangle Bitcoin to some degree where, when the people who need it finally understand it, I don't want it, not that it ever could be too late, but it sort of does seem like we're getting this little crunch of, control and central, these, yeah, thanks, Chad. I'll be the next Joe Rogan. The control of, these legacy like financial institutions and political systems. I don't want to have people who need Bitcoin as a life or death tool to get in too late. And I think that's kind of why I have a fire. I got ants in my pants. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of like, let's get all these people who've got mega audiences and orange pill them, and they're like orange pill dominoes, and so their whole audience can fall. And then we get this hurricane, this tidal wave of love and adoption for freedom money. So that's, I don't know, that's just kind of my jam.
Well, and I love that. And everyone does their own bit. I've been promoting podcasting since day one.
Yeah.
And it's a long haul. It's a long push. It's, like pushing water uphill with a broom. But also, some people eventually get voted off the island. That's just the fact of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. And, I'm just so grateful that we are on the island at the moment.
Amen.
So thank you guys all so much. I'm so grateful and blessed and honored to be your friends and to be your soul sister and be rocking this journey together. And, anything I can do to help support your projects, what you're up to, your initiatives, I'm here. I know I'm not Joe Rogan yet, but but I'm at your service. And so thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mortiz. Thanks, Oscar. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Ben. I know you had to jump off to be with your little one. And thanks everybody for tuning in so much. So I wish you all the most love and peace, love, and so much warm aloha. And please make sure you go follow everybody. I'm going to have everything in show notes. I'll have all the links. I'll have everything where you guys can go follow everybody. And we'll keep moving the needle forward on freedom, technology, and love. So thanks again, you guys. I really, really appreciate you all.